subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
See so many things related to magic suddenly, which may cause accidents. There's nothing to worry about. Ms. Oakby was still very energetic. She said with a smile, Lin Xiu, I'm not just happy because I'm about to see the magical world. To tell you the truth, yesterday afternoon, our orphanage received an anonymous donation from a kind person, a full £5,000. £5,000. The children in the orphanage can live more comfortably these days. Seeing Ms. Oakby's excitement, Lin Xiu couldn't help but sigh. A few days ago, he used the prop, Vernon Dursley's private money, in the system space. Soon, he received Vernon's private money, £5,000. The £5,000 appeared in Lin Xiu's mind in a special state. He could materialize and extract it with a thought, or use the power of the system to quickly circulate it through London's banking and financial system. Lin Xiu didn't hesitate at the time and donated it directly to the external account of Wu's orphanage. Now it seems that it would be better to hesitate. Who knew that Ms. Oakby would be so affected? If I had known earlier, I would have donated the £5,000 to the orphanage at another time. But today is the day when the Hogwarts admission letter says that school will start, and Ms. Oakby insisted on sending Lin Xiu to King's Cross Station. There was no way. He could only follow Ms. Oakby into the car. Fortunately, Ms. Oakby asked a kind person to take them there instead of driving herself. At 10:30, they arrived at King's Cross Station. Ms. Oakby looked at the address with some curiosity. Platform 9 3/4. How can we get there? We're in the middle of Platform 9 and Platform 10. Platform 9 and March 4th is nearby, but it seems that it has not been built yet. But I think this should be a magical method. While Ms. Oakby was looking around, Lin Xiu had easily found the platform. Obviously, it was the ticket gate between Platform 9 and Platform 10. Just like what he saw in front of the leaky cauldron, most people turn a blind eye to it, and only occasionally some special people would notice the abnormality. Following the direction pointed by Lin Xiu, Ms. Oakby also found it there. She said happily, of course, like many wizards' places, they cast spells such as Muggle Confusion Charm, right? Fortunately, I am at least a Squib, and those spells against Muggles are ineffective against me. Just then, Lin Xiu saw a family of 3 walking in front of him. The fat man in the lead shouted gloomily, "Excuse me, get out of my way." The woman next to him also had a dark face, and the fat boy next to him laughed at the tall black-haired boy behind them, without much kindness. Ms. Oakby said dissatisfiedly, "This family is really rude." Lin Xiu focused all his attention on the black-haired boy. Wearing glasses, there is a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. The boy who survived, Harry Potter. At this time, Harry was carrying a large box that was completely inconsistent with his body shape. There was a bird cage on the box, and there was a snow-white owl in it, with an embarrassed look on his face. Lin Xiu saw him stop a guard and wanted to ask where the bus to Hogwarts was, but he didn't dare to mention Platform 9 3/4. In addition, Harry couldn't explain where Hogwarts was, so the guard left angrily, and Harry was alone in the middle of the platform, at a loss. Harry walked back and forth between Platforms 9 and 10 with his big box, asking several people, but they were obviously Muggles and didn't know where to take the Hogwarts Express. Finally, he noticed Lin Xiu's gaze and walked over breathlessly with his box. "Hello, please, do you know where to take the bus to Hogwarts?" Lin Xiu smiled and said, "Of course, Platform 9 3/4. I'm also a freshman at Hogwarts. You can follow me." Harry was obviously relieved. "Thank you very much. My name is Harry Potter, and I don't know your name yet." "Lin Xiu, this is my guardian, Ms. Oakby." Ms. Oakby took some things for Harry that he could not carry, and when she heard Harry's name, she looked sideways. She had heard this name in the Daily Prophet, the boy who lived. Harry asked curiously, "Ms. Oakbeth, why are you staring at me?" "Oh." Ms. Oakbeth easily thought of changing the topic. "I just noticed the family that stood next to you before. Are they related to you? That family looks a little strange, especially the fat man and the long-faced woman. They are my uncle and aunt, Vernon Dursley and Petunia Dursley. Most of the time, they appear normal in front of strangers. Harri said, as for their strange behavior today, it may be related to the private money that Uncle Vernon disappeared. I guess that money is about £5,000 because when they sent me to the station this morning, Uncle Vernon was always very sensitive to the number of 5,000. He even had a rare temper with Aunt Petunia. Chapter 23, Hermione's Sky is Falling. I turned Harry Potter into a girl. Harri followed Lin Xiu through the wall. The place where the ticket gate used to be had become a wrought iron archway. The smoke from the steam locomotive lingered above the chattering crowd, and cats of all colors darted around under people's feet. Amid the buzzing of the crowd and the noise of dragging heavy luggage, owls also hooted harshly, one calling the other. The first few carriages were already full of students, some of them leaning out of the windows to talk to their families, and some playing in their seats. Lin Xiu and Harri walked forward on the platform, ready to find an empty seat. They heard a round-faced boy say in front of the carriage, "Grandma, I lost my toad again." An old woman sighed and said, "Alas, Neville." When they got close to the rear of the train, Lin Xiu and Harri found an empty compartment near the rear of the train. Lin Xiu easily carried all the luggage onto the train, and seeing that Harri was a little out of breath, he helped him carry into the compartment. Harri panted, "Thank you." Then Lin Xiu got off the car to say goodbye to Ms. Oakby. Ms. Oakby looked around at the wizard families coming and going and sighed with satisfaction. Before leaving, she waved to Lin Xiu. "If you have anything, you can write to me by owl." When Lin Xiu returned to the car, he heard exclamations from the carriages along the way. "Harry Potter is also in the carriage." Lin Xiu walked into the compartment and saw Harri leaning against the bed, looking at something in a trance. He followed his sight and found that a family with red hair was saying goodbye to each other. That was the Weasley family. Lin Xiu was a little curious. "Harri, do you know them? They seem to have a last name Weasley." "Fred and George from the Weasley family were very friendly to me just now and told me a lot about the wizarding world." Harri seemed to be worried that Lin Xiu would think he was behaving strangely, so he explained, "I think they should be a good family. The fat lady from the Weasley family was very friendly when she smiled at me. I grew up almost alone since I was a child, but I'm a little curious about what a family with so many brothers and sisters would be like." Lin Xiu nodded and followed along at the window. The features of the Weasley family are easy to identify, and the red hair will never make people mistake. Harri was a little curious. "Lin Xiu, don't you have brothers and sisters either?" "I grew up in an orphanage." Harri seemed to be frightened. He was stunned. After a moment, he was a little at a loss and stammered, "Sorry. I don't know. It's okay. I'm used to it." At this time, the train whistle sounded and was about to leave. The Weasley twins followed the younger Weasley and hurriedly climbed onto the train. On the platform, the little red-haired girl started crying. The Weasley twins shouted at the window, "Don't cry, Ginny. We will send a lot of owls to find you." "Okay, then we will give you something removed from Hogwarts, such as a door handle." The fat lady on the train platform was angry. "George, just a joke, Mom." The train started, and Lin Xiu saw the Weasley's little sister, Ginny, crying and laughing, running forward with the train, waving at them constantly. The carriage where Lin Xiu and his friends were was the last one. When the carriage passed Ginny, for fun, he smiled at Ginny in front of the window and waved at her. The smile on Ginny Weasley's face solidified, and finally, she turned around at a very fast speed, and the expression on her face could not be seen. But Lin Xiu felt the joy of harvest, because at this time, the system prompt sounded. Ding! Ginny Weasley's embarrassment was detected, drawing a treasure chest for the host. "Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a bronze treasure chest." What a surprise! Lin Xiu chose to open the treasure chest in his mind. Ding! The bronze treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Mastery of the Bat Curse. Mastery of the Bat Curse. The Bat Curse is a poisonous spell invented by the author of Standard Spells. It can turn a person's booger into a big black bat to attack the opponent. Ginny Weasley is quite talented in this spell. She even made Professor Slughorn notice her and pulled her into the Horus Club. After using it, you will master the Bat Curse, and your talent for dark magic will increase slightly. Booger. A bit of a bad taste. Lin Xiu didn't expect that Ginny, who looked beautiful and cute with her fiery red hair, was good at something so strange. But after saying it, he still chose to use it directly, and it seemed that something extra suddenly appeared in his mind. In addition to some inexplicable black magic talents, he also sensed the spells of the bat spirit and the waving gestures of the magic wand. This made him a little eager to find someone to test it. But there was only one Harry Potter in the carriage now, which was obviously not appropriate, so he could only suppress this emotion first. Soon after the train started, the sliding door of the compartment opened, and a boy with fiery red hair stuck his head out. "Sorry, the other places are full. If you don't mind, can I sit in?" Harry glanced at Lin Xiu, and Lin Xiu smiled and said, "Come in." The red-haired boy breathed a sigh of relief, sat next to Harry, and introduced himself. "My name is Ron Weasley." "My name is Lin Xiu." "My name is Harry Potter." After the self-introduction, the three of them were silent for a while, and Ron and Harry looked out the window at the same time, watching the scenery outside the window fly by. After a moment, Ron laughed dryly as if to break the atmosphere, and said nervously, "So, what others said is true. There's really a lightning scar on your forehead." Harry brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, revealing a lightning-shaped scar. Ron's eyes widened. This is what the you-know-who did. Lin Xiu looked at the lightning-shaped scar, and his heart moved inexplicably. He felt that the scar made him feel a little palpitation when he looked at it. Is this the power of the Avada Kedavra curse? But he also found that this palpitation seemed to be only felt by him. Harry and Ron next to him did not show any abnormality. Lin Xiu almost instantly thought of the bat spell mastery that he had just opened from the emotional treasure chest dropped by Ginny, which came with some black magic talent. With Harry's lightning scar as the beginning, the silent atmosphere in the carriage was broken, and Harry and Ron were talking about their own life stories. Harry grew up in the Dursley family and experienced the ups and downs of the world. Ron was simply because there were too many children in the family, and he never got anything new. Even though he started school today, he only got the old robes of his eldest brother Bill Weasley when he was in school, and even the wand was the old one of his second brother Charlie Weasley, and the pet was just the rat scabbers that the three Percy Weasleys didn't want. Originally, Harry and Ron both felt that they were quite miserable, but when they heard that Lin Xiu grew up in an orphanage, they immediately stood in awe, and the original competition of misery was ended, and the mood in the box finally returned to normal. Harry and Ron talked about their own experiences like ordinary little boys, while Lin Xiu mainly listened and occasionally shared some of his experiences in the orphanage. At about 12 o'clock noon, there was a loud noise of clacking in the aisle, and a smiling woman with dimples pushed open the compartment door and asked, "Dear, do you want to buy any food on the car?" Harry waved his hand and spent 11 silver sickles and 7 copper nuts to buy all the snacks on the car, and asked Ron and Lin Xiu to eat as much as they wanted. The three of them enjoyed the snacks. When the train sped past a farmland and passed through the forest, a round-faced boy walked in with tears in his eyes. "Excuse me, I want to ask if you've seen a toad." All three shook their heads. The round-faced boy cried, "I lost it again. It always tries to run away from me." "My name is Neville Longbottom," the boy said sadly. "If you see my toad." Lin Xiu comforted, "Maybe you don't have to look for it so urgently. It will come back by itself." "Thank you, I hope so." Neville sighed and left. In the original book, Neville searched for his pet toad on the train for a long time, but couldn't find it. Later, it took the initiative to come out, and Hagrid found it accidentally. Lin Xiu felt that Neville didn't need to be too anxious now. "I don't understand why he is so anxious." Ron said, "If I bought a toad, I would find a way to lose it as soon as possible. The sooner the better. But since I brought Scabbers, there is nothing to say." The mouse was still napping on Ron's legs. "It might have died a long time ago. It doesn't matter whether it's dead or alive," Ron said in annoyance. "Fred taught me a spell before. He said it can turn my mouse yellow. Do you want to see it?" Harry nodded excitedly. Lin Xiu stared at the mouse named Scabbers. Or rather, the wormtail who turned into a mouse, Peter Pettigrew. He betrayed the Potter family and put the blame on Sirius Black. After that, he hid in the Weasley family as the Mouse Scabbers for 12 years. Lin Xiu was thinking if he forced Peter Pettigrew to reveal his true identity now. But thinking about it, Lin Xiu still restrained this thought out of caution. After all, no matter how weak Peter Pettigrew's strength was, he was a graduate of Hogwarts that year and joined the Death Eaters. In terms of dark magic, his offensiveness was not weak. Lin Xiu decided to charge a little interest. For example, the Bat Spirit Evil spell he just opened from Ginny Weasley's emotional treasure chest was not bad. Ron fumbled in his old suitcase for a long time and pulled out a worn-out wand, some parts of which were peeling off, and one end was still shining white. The unicorn hair in the wand core has leaked out, but I think it should still be usable. As soon as he raised the wand, a little girl dressed neatly in new Hogwarts robes walked in. Has anyone seen a toad? A man named Neville lost a toad. The little girl's tone seemed a little arrogant. Ron said, "We told Neville that we didn't see a toad." But the little girl ignored him and stared at Ron's wand. "Are you preparing to cast a spell? Let me open my eyes." She sat next to Lin Xiu, and Ron was a little at a loss. The little girl politely said to Lin Xiu next to her, "Nice to meet you. My name is Hermione Granger." Seeing that Hermione was so polite, Lin Xiu also politely shook hands with her. "Nice to meet you. My name is Lin Xiu." Hermione shook Lin Xiu's hand and shook it tightly several times. Lin Xiu felt his palms were full of sweat. Hermione coughed and pulled her hand away. "Mr. Lin Xiu, I'm not used to shaking hand with people." Perhaps to ease the embarrassment, Hermione looked at Ron. "Sir, weren't you going to show some magic just now? Please continue." "Oh, okay." Ron cleared his throat. "Daisy, sweet cream, and sunshine turn this silly fat mouse yellow." Nothing happened except that the white light of the unicorn hair on the wand core became brighter. "Are you sure that was really a spell?" Hermione asked. "It doesn't look good, does it? I tried a few simple spells at home, just for practice, and they all worked." For example, Hermione pulled out the wand in her arms and pointed it at the worn-out glasses frame on Harry's nose opposite. The glasses frame was broken and wrapped with some tape. Harry was so scared that he trembled. His eyes behind the glasses became cross-eyed. He stared at the tip of the wand nervously, and he felt something was wrong. On the one hand, after entering the magical world, Harry more or less recalled some fragments of his parents' murder. He was a little stressed when other people pointed their wands at him. Harry always had a bad feeling in his heart, and his reason told him that his feelings and suspicions were ridiculous. But he was really worried that the girl named Hermione in front of him would wave her wand and cast the horrible spell in his nightmare, and then a terrifying green light would come out of the wand. In the end, the boy who survived the disaster, Harry Potter, was going to die at the hands of a girl named Hermione Granger. On the other hand, before he entered the magic world, a very strange thing happened to him. He completely turned into a red-haired girl. In fact, this was the main reason why he leaned on the window before the train departed. He always felt that his red hair after becoming a girl was very similar to the red hair inherited from the Weasley family. Since his Aunt Petunia and Hagrid said that Harry looked very similar to his mother Lily when she was a child after becoming a girl, Harry would naturally guess whether he had any distant blood relationship with the Weasley family. Now, seeing Hermione waving her wand at him, he was worried that he would suddenly become a red-haired girl again. How would he explain it to the other people in the carriage? The last time Hagrid saw him become a girl, he said he would write a letter to Dumbledore to report the situation. But nearly a month had passed, and Hagrid had never written to tell him about the follow-up progress. Harry was thinking wildly, but he was dumbfounded. Hermione Granger waved her wand. Oculus, repaired as before. With a click, the glasses frame on Harry's nose was completely repaired, becoming shiny and strong, reflecting the luster of metal. Harry's voice became a little softer. "I don't feel very well." Harry changed from a thin, black-haired little boy to a beautiful little girl with red hair. Lin Xiu was stunned and understood in his heart that this was the unstable polyjuice potion in his novice gift pack that took effect, and Harry changed from a boy to a girl. But Hermione and Ron didn't know the connection. Hermione looked at her wand in confusion. This is clearly just an ordinary repair spell from the standard spells. How could this happen? Ron's eyes widened. Great! I want to try this too. He excitedly waved his wand at the mouse scabbers on his leg. Oculus. Oculus. Change for me. Scabbers. Turn into a beauty for me. The mouse Scabbers struggled in fear and tried to escape, but Ron held him down with one hand and cast a spell. Ron's face flushed. Change for me. He used all his strength, and the unicorn hair of the old wand core was almost thrown out, but the mouse still did not change significantly. Ron became a little frustrated and threw the spotted spell material into the suitcase. Don't I have any talent? But that guy named Hermione used this spell to turn the boy who survived Harry Potter into a girl. Why can't I? What did you say? He is Harry Potter. Harry Potter mentioned in books such as Modern History of Magic, The Rise and Fall of Dark Magic, and important magical events in the 20th century. Hermione was shocked. I turned the famous Harry Potter into a girl. She felt like the sky was about to fall. Chapter 24 Malfoy. I want all the information about that red-haired girl. Lin Xiu was so happy watching all this. In the background of the system, the prompt sound never stopped. Ding! Hemer Granger's doubtful mood is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a bronze treasure chest. Ding! Ron Weasley's excitement is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Ding! Peter Pettigrew's panic is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Ding! Hemer Granger's shock is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. So many treasure chests in one go. This is a great harvest for Lin Xiu. He was about to open the treasure chest directly, but seeing that the other 3 people in the car were all in a state of doubt about life, he decided to enlighten them first. It is indeed strange that Harry turned into a girl. Lin Xiu coughed lightly. But we will soon arrive at Hogwarts. I think Harry's situation should be properly resolved. Yes, I read in Hogwarts: A History of the School that Hogwarts has the best wizards in the world to teach all kinds of magic. Mr. Potter's strange symptoms can definitely be solved. Hermione said hurriedly, Mr. Potter, I will definitely help you find the teachers at Hogwarts. If it doesn't work, we can go to Dumbledore. Ron also nodded. Although George and Fred always make fun of me, some of their words are good. Hogwarts is the world go to the best magic school. Harry, don't worry. It's just a girl, it's nothing dash. My father works in the Ministry of Magic, and he also said that there's a potion called Polyjuice Potion that can completely change a person into another person. I think there must be a potion that can keep you a boy forever. I heard that the teacher who teaches potions at Hogwarts is a very powerful person. In addition, Dumbledore also has deep attainments in spells and potions. Harry relaxed a lot. Potions teacher and Dumbledore, right? I will visit them when the time comes. Considering that Hagrid often mentioned Dumbledore's name when he was with Hagrid before. Out of caution, Harry decided to find Hagrid, an acquaintance, after arriving at Hogwarts and let Hagrid take him to find Dumbledore. At this time, Lin Xiu noticed that there seemed to be several people walking outside the train compartment. If he was not mistaken, one of them was a little boy with golden hair. The little boy with golden hair, is that Malfoy? Will he see Harry's transformation into a red-haired girl? Lin Xiu was looking forward to what expression Malfoy would have when he saw Harry in the girl's state. Of course, he couldn't see him now. On the one hand, Harry and Malfoy didn't know each other yet, and they were still strangers. Even if they met, they wouldn't have much reaction. On the other hand, Harry, Ron pointed at Harry's hair, your hair turned back to black, and you turned back into a boy. Great, Harry breathed a sigh of relief. I thought I would be a girl for more than 10 days. Again, Hermione caught the key words. Mr. Potter, do you mean that you have been a girl before? Yes, it was probably one afternoon on July 20th. I suddenly became a girl, and that state lasted for more than 10 days. Hermione was relieved after hearing this. She was really afraid that her repair spell would cause Harry Potter, a big celebrity in a magic world, to become a girl. This is a big mess. Fortunately, things didn't get too bad. But Hermione didn't dare to stay in this box any longer. She was worried that something unexpected would happen again. If you don't mind, I'm going back to my box, Hermione stood up and shook hands with Lin Xiu. By the way, remember to change into robes. The train is about to arrive. Hermione had just walked out of the box halfway when she turned back. By the way, the gentleman who performed the spell just now, I don't know your name yet. Ron Weasley. Okay, Mr. Weasley, if I were you, I would definitely go and check on a mouse. After all, the repair spell can only be used on dead things. Scabbers. Ron hurriedly took the mouse out of the suitcase and wailed, Scabbers, you. How are you? The mouse originally had a thick layer of short black hair on its body, which fell off in pieces at this moment, and Ron's hands were full of the fallen black mouse hair. Scabbers changed from a short-haired fat mouse to a bald fat mouse. Moreover, it had not moved for a long time, even when Ron grabbed its tail and swung it around, even creating a big whirlwind. It didn't make sound. Is it dead? Ron was a little sad. It's all my fault. I thought Granger's spell could transform people. Alas, Scabbers is dead. Our family can't buy me another pet now. Ron, it's okay. I don't have a pet either, Lin Xiu said as he pulled out his wand. Besides, I've practiced some spells before. One of them happens to be usable only on living things. Let me try it. If Scabbers is still alive, there will definitely be a reaction. Harri looked over with curiosity, and Ron put the limp mouse on the ground. Lin Xiu waved his wand lightly. Bat bogey hexes. Instantly, the nose of the bald mouse on the ground stood up suddenly, and 2 black mists sprayed out from it. The black mist turned into 2 huge bat flesh wings and flapped violently. The mouse that had collapsed on the ground screamed and rushed up like a rocket. After hitting the ceiling of the carriage, it bounced 4 times in a row and finally crashed into the pile of snacks that Harri bought. Wow! Harri and Ron's eyes lit up. This is so cool. Lin Xiu nodded. It seems that Banban is not dead. How about another one? Ron went to pick up the snacks. I think Banban, the fat mouse, should like this. Another what? 3 boys came in. One of the boys had short blonde hair and a pale face. Behind him were 2 short and fat bodyguards, both of whom looked particularly ugly. The pale boy noticed that Lin Xiu and Harri were looking at them, so he introduced them casually. This is Crab. This is Goyle. As for me, my name is Draco Malfoy. Malfoy glanced at the 3 people. People on the whole train are talking about Harry Potter in this compartment. So, who among you is the boy who lived? It's me, Malfoy said to Harry. You will soon find that some wizard families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to make friends with freaks. Maybe we're the same kind of people. He stretched out his hand to shake hands with Harry, but Harry ignored him. Harry said coldly, I think I can tell who is the alternative freak. When everyone thought Malfoy might be angry, he just shook his head gently and then looked at Ron. I guess you are from the Weasley family? My father told me that the Weasleys all have red hair and freckles on their faces. Ron was alert. What do you want to do? I just want to ask, who was the red-haired girl sitting next to you in your box before? Weasley, my father told me that your little sister is only 10 years old this year and can only come to Hogwarts next year, the red-haired girl sitting next to you before. Is she a pure-blood relative of the Weasley family? The box fell into a strange silence. Harry's face turned pale subconsciously, and Ron was a little confused. Lin Xiu tried hard to restrain himself from laughing. It seems that Malfoy really saw what Harry looked like after he turned into a girl before, and he seemed to care quite a lot. No one answered, and Draco Malfoy's pale cheeks flushed slightly, since he was so ungrateful. After glancing at Lin Xiu, Malfoy briefly assessed Lin Xiu's fighting ability. Well, he doesn't look that strong, but I have 2 fat bodyguards, Crab and Goyle, so I have the advantage. He sneered and waved. Crab, Goyle, do it. Chapter 25, Malfoy. Do you have someone you like? Lin Xiu and Harry stood up and prepared to fight. But the 2 henchmen behind Malfoy suddenly pounced forward and directly pounced on the snack pile on the ground. Goyle reached out to grab the chocolate frog next to Ron, but before Lin Xiu and the others could make any move, they heard Goyle scream. The hairless mouse Scabbers was holding his finger, and its sharp teeth pierced deeply into Goyle's flesh, causing him to scream and shake his hand in pain, trying to get rid of Scabbers. Crab on the side was frightened and dared not grab the snacks anymore, and even hid behind Malfoy. Ron shouted excitedly, Scabbers, good job. Malfoy's face finally turned red with anger. Idiot. I asked you to teach them a lesson, not to steal their snacks. Looking at the two unpromising subordinates, Malfoy was furious. He took a step forward and looked at Harry and Ron, who were eager to try, and was about to take action. But Lin Xiu just stretched out his hand, easily picked up Malfoy and his two men, and threw them out of the car. Ron laughed excitedly, rushed up, and punched Malfoy. Harry rushed to Ron's side. Ron, don't be like this. Today is our first day of school. It's better not to make any trouble. That's what he said, but while trying to stop Ron, Harry punched Malfoy lying on the ground next to him from time to time. The most important thing is that Malfoy actually set his eyes on his appearance after he turned into a girl. Moreover, Malfoy's arrogant look reminded Harry of his cousin Dudley Dursley, and Harry felt uncomfortable if he didn't punch him twice. You three, Malfoy saw Lin Xiu's gaze turn to him and subconsciously change his words. You two disgusting guys, you dare to hit me. Just wait. As soon as the train arrives at school, I will write a letter to my father. My father is the director of Hogwarts. I will make you pay for it. At this moment, a somewhat disdainful voice sounded. Draco Malfoy, you are not a 2- or 3-year-old child. After being defeated, will you only cry and shout to find your father? A beautiful girl with golden curly hair came from the next carriage. Malfoy's eyes were slightly unnatural. Cassandra Wallace, why are you here? I'm also a freshman this year. Why can't I be here? I think the Malfoy family is not so powerful that a Wallace cannot enter Hogwarts. Listening to Cassandra's words, Malfoy snorted coldly and stopped talking. He and Cassandra have met. Both of them are pure blood and have had some contact. They both have arrogant personalities, so there are many conflicts when they come into contact. But every conflict basically ends with Malfoy's defeat. In terms of bloodline, although Cassandra's Volley family is not among the 28 families, it is also an extremely ancient pure blood and even not inferior to the Malfoy family. In terms of power, Malfoy's father is a Hogwarts director, while Cassandra's father is a senior official in the Ministry of Magic, so there is no advantage. Therefore, when seeing Cassandra this time, Malfoy already had some intention of retreating. Since Cassandra is here, I will give her a face, Malfoy said unforgivingly. When we get to Hogwarts, I will definitely make you look good. Let's go. Cassandra laughed unabashedly. Malfoy, you made me sound so tough even when I run away. But Malfoy had made up his mind at this time, and he didn't intend to pay any attention at all and fled with Goyle and Carib. Lin Xiu looked at the girl standing at the door of the box. Cassandra, thank you for helping us out. Humph, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to help you out. Cassandra raised her head slightly. I just can't bear to see that idiot Malfoy insult the glory of pure blood. After that, without waiting for Harry and Ron to say anything else, she also left. Harry stared with clear eyes. What is pure blood? Pure blood refers to wizards or wizard families without muggles or muggleborns in the family tree. Many people believe in this and are proud of it. Ron explained, many pure bloods are fools like the Malfoy family who are only proud of their own blood. The girl named Volley seems to know Malfoy, and she is probably also a pure blood. But she is different from many pure bloods I have met. Hearing Ron's words, Harry subconsciously said, I think this may have something to do with Lin Xiu. The girl named Granger before is also the same, Harry continued. Ron, didn't you notice? Hermione Granger only shook hand with Lin Xiu, and she didn't even pay much attention to us. It seems to be true. Ron was a little depressed, which reminded him of when he was at home. He knew that his family loved him very much, but his parents' attention was limited. They often paid more attention to his brothers, who performed well, the youngest Ginny. He couldn't help but sigh. Would he become a little transparent in Hogwarts like a home? Harry felt completely different. Ever since Hagrid brought him into the magical world, he had been feeling some pressure to some extent. Almost everyone he met thought he was special. He knew nothing about magic now, but it seemed that everyone expected him, the boy who survived a disaster, to achieve something. Harry had no memory of the fame he had felt, the things that made him famous. Even on the night his parents died, he didn't remember what happened. Now, seeing that finally someone was no longer so surprised by the name of Harry Potter, The expectations and attention placed on fame seemed to have shifted to Lin Xiu, and he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The train clanged, and they had already run a long distance. The compartment was originally quite quiet, but Harry and Ron were only 11-year-old boys after all, full of energy, and could hardly sit still. Harry wanted to know what wizards would do after graduating from Hogwarts, and Ron said excitedly, "I know that. My brother Charlie is studying dragons in Romania, and Bill is working for Gringotts in Africa. Speaking of Gringotts, have you heard about it?" Ron's expression became mysterious. The Daily Prophet wrote that someone tried to rob the Gringotts vault. Harry's eyes widened. Really? What happened later? Ron said nonchalantly, "Nothing happened. That's why a big news broke. They were not caught. My father said that only the most powerful dark wizards could obviously manage to escape from Gringotts' pursuit. But the strange thing is that nothing was lost in Gringotts. Of course, every time this kind of thing happens, everyone is in danger, and people are worried that there's a mysterious person behind it." Harry was obviously stunned, and his expression became solemn. Ron smiled and said, "Harry, don't have that expression. The mysterious person was defeated by you that year, and he hasn't appeared for many years, so I don't think you have to worry about the Gringotts incident this time." Lin Xiu understood. This matter is really related to the mysterious person Voldemort. It was done by Quirrell, the defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts. At this time, Quirrell was possessed and controlled by Voldemort's residual soul. In order to steal the Philosopher's Stone that can resurrect Voldemort, Quirrell took the risk and broke into Gringotts. However, as early as a month ago, on the day Harry Potter first arrived at Diagon Alley, Hagrid had already taken the Philosopher's Stone. So Voldemort's action this time was in vain. But Voldemort would later discover that the Philosopher's Stone was in Hogwarts, and he would launch a new action. So, in the next semester, the dangers I may encounter in Hogwarts are Voldemort's residual soul and Quirrell controlled by Voldemort. The dangers they bring can be avoided. Lin Xiu once again clarified his goal. Voldemort, Quirrell, Philosopher's Stone. I can avoid these things. While ensuring my own safety, I can contact more people, obtain more emotional treasure chests from them, and continue to open treasure chests to make myself stronger. After returning to his own carriage, Malfoy regained his composure a little. "Clark, Goyle, I'm giving you a task now. Revenge against the Weasleys, right? Don't worry, I will." Malfoy shook his head. "Revenge is not urgent. I want you to help me find someone. A beautiful girl with long red hair. She has appeared in Harry Potter's box before." Clark's eyes widened. "Malfoy, do you have someone you like?" Goyle made a meaningful "oh" sound. Malfoy didn't know if he was angry. His face turned red. He slapped the two of them hard. "What are you thinking about? That guy from the Weasley family, my dad and his dad, don't get along. Our two families are destined to be hostile." Malfoy took a deep breath. Now, the Harry Potter who survived the disaster, and the black-haired boy whose name he didn't know. Malfoy recalled the scene where Lin Xiu easily threw the three of them out of the box, and he still felt a little unhappy. They all leaned towards the Weasleys. "We have to find some allies." But Chubby Crab asked puzzledly, "Why is it a beautiful girl with long red hair?" He emphasized the word beautiful. Anyway, Malfoy ignored Crab's question as if he hadn't heard it. "I saw that girl sitting in Harry Potter's seat before. But when we went to that box, just now, the girl was gone, and the person sitting in that seat had become the boy who survived Harry Potter. The girl's red hair was like fire, and I thought she was a distant relative of the Weasley family at first," Malfoy said, "but now it seems that the girl is probably not in the same group with them. Otherwise, she would not have been driven out of that box. My father told me that the enemy of my enemy is a friend you can make," Malfoy said firmly. "We could try to find and win over that girl to deal with Potter and Weasley together. In my opinion, the fact that the Weasley kid approached that girl at the beginning is enough to prove that girl is extraordinary. Maybe she is from a pure blood family." Gore looked embarrassed. "But Crab, and I don't even know what that girl looks like. How can we find her? I think that girl should be a truly outstanding person like me, and it will be easy to become the focus of the crowd. When school starts, we will definitely find her." Malfoy smiled. My father told me that our Malfoy family will definitely go to Slytherin College. Severus Snape, the Dean of Slytherin, is the best wizard in the whole Hogwarts. Professor Snape is in charge of the potions class. He is always known for his strictness in class. This is a good time for us to find the red-haired girl. Let's wait and see. Malfoy was very confident. When it's the potions class, the sky outside the train window had darkened. Lin Xiu saw a mountain and forest under the deep purple sky. A voice echoed on the train. The train will arrive at Hogwarts in 5 minutes. Please leave your luggage on the train, and we will take you to school. Both Harri and Ron were a little nervous. They hurriedly changed into their robes and stuffed some of the snacks left on the table into their pockets. They turned to look at Lin Xiu and said admiringly, "Lin Xiu, you are not nervous at all. So amazing. It's just the beginning of the school year. No one will die. What's there to be nervous about?" Lin Xiu also felt a little funny. Harri and Ron, who faced the threat of Voldemort's residual soul after entering school, were able to rush forward without changing their expressions. Now, they're so afraid of the entrance ceremony. The people on the train pushed and shoved to get off the train and got off to a small and dark platform. A lamp was swaying above the students' heads, and a rough voice rang out. First-year students, come over here." Amid the crowd, a bearded face smiled. "Everyone, I am Rubius Hagrid, the gamekeeper of Hogwarts. First-year students, follow me. Watch your step. Good evening, Harri." Chapter 26, Arriving at Hogwarts. Good traditions before the sorting ceremony. After leaving the station, we walked down a flight of stairs and passed through a section of woods. At the end of the narrow path in the woods was a pier facing a huge black lake. On the high hillside across the lake stood a towering castle, with spires and windows twinkling under the starry sky. No more than 4 people on each boat, Hagrid said loudly, pointing to a team of small boats moored on the shore. Harri and Ron got on the boat, and when Lin Xiu got on the boat, Hermione followed. "Are you all on board?" Hagrid shouted, and he took a boat by himself. "Well, move forward." Without a power source, the boat automatically rowed forward. The lake was flat, and everyone was speechless at what they saw. In front of them was a huge castle towering into the clouds, with spires and windows twinkling under the starry sky. On the cliff not far away, continuous ivy vines drooped, covering the secret entrance. Harri and Ron were stunned, and even Lin Xiu thought the scene was amazing. "It's really great," Hermione said, "but I don't understand why only first-year students like us take the boat. I didn't read this in the book Hogwarts, a history before. I heard that this is to retrace the path taken by the founders of Hogwarts, so that we can feel what they have experienced." Ron shrank his neck. "These are what Fred and George told me, and I don't know if it's true." "Ron, why do you look so strange?" Harri was puzzled. "You haven't been right since you got on the boat. Are you sick?" "I'm not sick, it's just," Ron said uneasily. "Harri, do you remember the sorting ceremony I told you about on the train before?" Hermione asked quickly. "What sorting ceremony?" "There is no mention of this in the history of Hogwarts." Ron's voice seemed very uneasy. "Fred and others told me that there will be a sorting ceremony before the first-year students enter school to determine where each student is suitable to go. A college. It's hard to say if someone will die. Fred said the sorting ceremony is a very dangerous test, and you might have to fight a troll. George said that the most difficult thing is not even the troll, but the giant squid in the Hogwarts lake. It is rumored that Godric Gryffindor, one of the founders of Hogwarts, is a giant squid in the lake and has lived to this day. If our sorting test is a giant squid, it will be almost impossible to pass. When the time comes, we will have to pack our bags and go back to where we came from. I hope this year's entrance test will not be a giant squid. I would rather fight a troll," Ron said unconfidently. "Of course, I think Fred and George are joking. I think so." Harry's face turned pale. "Take a test? Fight a giant squid? But he doesn't even know a little magic until now. What should he do?" When they came here, he didn't expect that there would be such a trick. Hermione was mumbling something, reciting the spells she had learned quickly, but her voice still revealed her panic. The boats that the many little wizards were on were not far apart. In just a moment, Almost everyone knew about the Hogwarts entrance ceremony test. Except for Lin Xiu, the little wizards around were all worried. After seeing that the many pure-blood little wizards on Draco Malfoy's side were also in a state of panic, Lin Xiu couldn't help laughing. Those little wizards of Muggle origin were fine. They didn't know much about Hogwarts, but the parents of those pure-blood families also tacitly concealed the truth about the Hogwarts sorting ceremony from their children. It was really a funny and evil taste. At this moment, a huge shadow passed over the water. When the light hanging on the boat illuminated the shadow, everyone found that it was a huge, dark tentacle. The tentacles swam lazily on the water, looking like a slow-moving fish, but to the young wizards who had just learned about the sorting test from Ron, it was extremely terrifying. The little wizards screamed on the water. Tentacle. The little wizards sitting on the boat suddenly became confused, and Hagrid tried his best to comfort them. Calm down. Calm down. Freshman, the giant squid at Hogwarts is very docile. It won't hurt anyone. But no one listened to him. They just barely calmed down a little and huddled in the boat without daring to move. At this time, Lin Xiu, who was sitting on the boat, felt that he seemed to hear something. He followed the sound and looked at the side of the boat, only to see two lights suddenly lit up under the black water. The water surface broke gently. The two lights rose quickly, and a huge shadow like a small island emerged from the water. With the help of the sporadic firelight on the boat, accompanied by a splash of water, the two lights rose quickly, and part of the giant underwater appeared in the eyes of the little wizards on the water. Giant squid. Ron and Harri were pale, but they forced themselves not to retreat, staring at the huge body of the squid. If we have to fight it in the entrance exam. Hermione had a blank expression on her face, holding the corner of Lin Xiu's clothes tightly with one hand, not daring to move. The panic reactions of other little wizards were varied. It's called Kraken. How beautiful it looks. Hagrid's voice sounded briskly. It's very docile, right? Kraken, say hello to everyone. For huge tentacles stretched out of the water and gently touched the edge of the boat of several little wizards. Help! Malfoy looked at the huge tentacles beside his boat with horror. This monster is going to kill me. Other little wizards were like quails that were scared and said nothing. Lin Xiu was a little strange. The giant squid in front of him didn't speak, but he could feel the kindness coming from it. This squid named Kraken seemed to be saying hello. Could it be the affinity with magical animals that is working? Lin Xiu became a little bolder and reached out to touch the tentacles of the Kraken sticking out of the water. It was as tough as some kind of leather, but it felt good. Hagrid noticed Lin Xiu's actions and said loudly, "Look, the Kraken is very gentle, and the little wizard next to Harri has proved this." Seeing that Lin Xiu was indeed not injured, the others gradually dared to interact with the giant squid. A moment later, accompanied by a burst of joyful whimpers, the giant squid sank into the water. "Keep going," Hagrid said happily. "We have been delayed long enough." Many little wizards followed Hagrid, and the boat sailed over the cliff, through the secret cave covered by ivy, through a dark tunnel, and came to the underground of Hogwarts Castle, and finally arrived at a place similar to an underground dock. The group followed Hagrid to the dock and finally climbed onto the ground full of gravel and pebbles. After the young wizards got off the boat, Hagrid found the toad that Neville had lost on the train. After returning it to Neville, the light of his lantern illuminated a tunnel between the rocks and finally reached a flat, wet meadow in the shadow of the castle. Everyone climbed up a flight of stone steps and gathered in front of a huge oak door. Hagrid raised a huge fist and knocked on the castle door 3 times. The door opened immediately. A tall, black-haired witch in an emerald green robe stood in front of the door. She looked serious, and the first thing that all the young wizards thought of was that this person was not easy to deal with. "First-year student, Professor McGonagall," Hagrid said. "Thank you, Hagrid. Leave it to me here." They followed Professor McGonagall along the stone floor, and Lin Xiu heard the buzzing of hundreds of people coming from the door on the right. Students from other classes in the school must have arrived. But Professor McGonagall took the first-year students to a small, empty room at the other end of the hall. Everyone rushed in, rubbing shoulders with each other, nervously staring at everything around them. "Welcome to Hogwarts," said Professor McGonagall. "The opening banquet is about to begin, but before you go to the restaurant, you all need to confirm which college you will enter. In a few minutes, the sorting ceremony will be held in front of all the teachers and students in the school. I suggest that you tidy yourself up and be more energetic while waiting." Her eyes wandered over Neville's crooked cloak and the dirt on Ron's nose, and then said, "I will pick you up when it's ready. Please keep quiet while waiting." After Professor McGonagall left, all the little wizards present breathed a sigh of relief. Ron looked at the leader and said with some envy, "Lin Xiu, I guess this is the test part of this year's sorting ceremony. You're the first one who dares to touch the giant squid. You will definitely pass it with a high score." Harri also smiled at Lin Xiu. He was happy for Lin Xiu, and, on the other hand, he felt that his performance was not bad. He was the second one to touch the giant squid's tentacles after Lin Xiu. The other little wizards cast envious glances at Lin Xiu, and Lin Xiu listened to the system prompt in his mind and felt a little amused. Ding! The giant squid kraken's happy emotions are detected, drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have won a bronze treasure chest. He just wanted to try to contact the giant squid in the Hogwarts lake because of the affinity of magical animals. Unexpectedly, it can also trigger the emotion value treasure chest. But thinking about it carefully, it is quite reasonable. Most of the magical animals in the magic world have good intelligence. They also have emotions, and it is normal to drop emotion treasure chests. In addition to the treasure chest dropped by the giant squid kraken, Lin Xiu's system space has stored a lot of treasure chests. But considering that the primary non-human constitution opened from Hagrid's emotion treasure chest last time directly acted on his body, he was worried that the things opened in the treasure chest later might attract attention. So he decided to keep a low profile and wait until the division is completed and he will open them in the dormitory. At this time, Lin Xiu found that more than 20 pearly white, translucent human figures emerged from the wall behind him and the ground under his feet. The reactions of the young wizards varied. Those who were born with pure blood were just a little nervous, while those who were born with muggles were obviously a little scared. "It's a ghost." Hermione was next to Lin Xiu, subconsciously hiding behind him, and said anxiously, "I read about it in Hogwarts, a history of the school." "Ghost?" Lin Xiu looked at the ghosts carefully and found that they looked no different from real people except that they were somewhat transparent. They even had some intelligence. "It's the freshmen." A chubby monk-like ghost smiled at the little wizards. "I think they're probably preparing to take the test." Some students nodded silently. "I hope you can be sorted into a Hufflepuff," said the monk. "I used to study in that house." "Now move forward," said a shrill voice. "The sorting ceremony is about to begin." Professor McGonagall came back. The ghosts floated through the opposite wall and disappeared. "Now line up in a single line," Professor McGonagall said to the little wizards. "Follow me." Lin Xiu walked at the front of the team, with Hermione behind him, followed by Ron and Harri. After passing through the foyer and a double door, the group walked into the luxurious restaurant. Everything in front of them seemed magical, wonderful, and magnificent. The first thing they saw was 4 long tables, around which students from other grades were already sitting. Above the table, the velvety black ceiling was dotted with stars, illuminated by thousands of candles floating in the air. And 4 tables were placed with glittering golden cups and goblets. There was another long table on the table at the top of the restaurant, which was the seat for teachers. Sitting in the middle was an old man with white hair and a long beard, who looked at the young wizards who came in with a kind smile on his face. Lin Xiu recognized him at a glance. This was Dumbledore, who deserved to sit in the center of the teacher's seat. Professor McGonagall took the first-year wizards to the area in front of the teacher's seat, facing the students of the 4 colleges in front. Beside Lin Xiu, Hermione whispered, "There was a spell here, and it looks like the sky outside. I read about it in Hogwarts, a history of the school." After arranging everything, Professor McGonagall gently placed a 4-legged stool in front of the first-year freshman and a pointed wizard hat on the stool. The hat was patched, worn, and extremely dirty, as if it had not been washed for many years. Then the hat twisted. A wide crack appeared on the edge of the hat. Like a mouth, the hat began to sing. You may belong to Gryffindor, where there is courage buried in the heart. You may belong to Hufflepuff, where people are honest and loyal. If you're smart, you may go to wise old Ravenclaw. Maybe you'll go to Slytherin. Maybe you will make sincere friends here. After the hat finished singing, the whole audience applauded. It bowed to the 4 tables and finally stopped. At this time, Professor McGonagall walked forward a few steps with a roll of parchment in her hand. Whoever's name I call now, put on the hat, sit on the stool, and wait for the sorting. She said, Hannah Abbott. A ruddy little girl with 2 golden braids stumbled out of the queue and put on the hat, which just covered her eyes. After just a moment, the hat shouted, Hufflepuff. Chapter 27. Snape panicked. Lily, is that you? Susan Burns. Hufflepuff, the hat called again. Susan ran quickly to sit next to Hannah. Terry Boot. Ravenclaw. This time the second table on the left cheered. When Terry joined them, several Ravenclaw students shook his hand. Mandy Bloker was also sorted into Ravenclaw, and Lavender Brown became the first freshman in Gryffindor. The table farthest to the left cheered loudly, and Harry saw Ron's twin brothers grinning disdainfully. More and more people were gradually called. Hermione Granger. Hermione almost ran to the stool and hurriedly put the hat on her head. The hat shouted, Gryffindor. When Neville Longbottom's name was called, the hat shouted Gryffindor, and Neville ran away with the hat on and finally had to run back in laughter and return the hat to Professor McGonagall. When Malfoy's name was called, he walked over with a swagger and immediately got what he wanted. He screamed Slytherin as soon as the hat almost touched his head. Malfoy went to meet his friends Crabbe and Goyle, looking very satisfied with himself. Then it was Cassandra. She had just picked up the hat, and the sorting hat didn't even touch her head, but she had already called out Slytherin. The Slytherins were very happy. Cassandra glanced at Lin Xiu in the crowd and walked to the Slytherin crowd. After calling a few more people, Lin Xiu finally heard his name. Lin Xiu. He walked out of the crowd and picked up the sorting hat under everyone's gaze. The sorting hat looked tattered, and Lin Xiu thought it would be dirty, but it was actually very clean. Lin Xiu put the hat on his head, and the huge brim blocked his sight, as if he was isolated from all around. He used brain occlusion to hide all the important memories in his mind. Even if someone uses legilimency on him now, they can only see the memories he selectively shows and will think that Lin Xiu is a little boy who grew up in an orphanage, strong and brave. The sorting hat said softly, "Oh, no doubt." At the same time, Lin Xiu found that there was a gentle thought sweeping through his memory. When the thought disappeared, the sorting hat shouted without hesitation, Gryffindor. Lin Xiu smiled. Sure enough, the brain block technique he practiced during the holiday came in handy, and he entered Gryffindor as he wished. He had carefully considered choosing Gryffindor. The wizarding world of Harry Potter seems safe and harmless most of the time, but it is actually quite dangerous. Magical animals, dark wizards, strange potions, lethal spells. His current strength is not enough to support him to ignore these dangers. Lin Xiu has to rely on his emotional treasure chest system to become stronger. Entering Gryffindor, he can get closer to Harry, and with Harry as an extension, he can get in touch with more powerful wizards in the original book to make himself stronger. As long as he doesn't get involved in Harry's adventures, Gryffindor House is still safe. Lin Xiu took off his hat and sat next to Hermione amid the cheers of the crowd. Hermione and Lin Xiu shook hands. Great, we are all Gryffindor. After shaking hands, Lin Xiu looked at the little wizards in front of the table. There were not many people left. Another group of people were successfully sorted, and soon after, the name that everyone was paying attention to was called Harry Potter. Everyone present looked at Harry. There was a buzzing whisper in the restaurant. Potter, is it Harry Potter? The boy who lived? This made Harry inexplicably nervous. The road to the sorting hat was not long, but Harry walked extremely hard. Many terrible thoughts flashed through his mind. Harry suddenly thought, what if the sorting hat didn't choose him? What would he do if the sorting hat stayed on his head for a long time and finally concluded, Mr. Potter, you are obviously not suitable for our Hogwarts, and then asked him to take the train back to the Dursleys? Harry even thought that he was not walking towards the wrinkled hat, but the dangerous guillotine that would decide his fate. His sorting ceremony would definitely not go smoothly. Finally, Harry put on the hat. Someone seemed to say in his ear, "Difficult. Very difficult. You can see that you have courage. You're not bad at heart. You have talent. Oh my God, that's good. You have a strong desire to prove yourself. Then, very interesting. Where should I put you?" Harry held the edge of the stool tightly, thinking to himself, "Not to Slytherin, not to Slytherin. Not to Slytherin, right?" The sorting hat asked. "Have you made up your mind? You can do great things. You know, Slytherin can help you to glory in your mind. There's no doubt. Not willing? Well, since you have made up your mind, the sorting hat shouted to the whole restaurant. "Gryffindor." Harry took off the hat and breathed a sigh of relief. He was not sorted into Slytherin, and everything seemed to be going well for the time being. Harry walked to the Gryffindor table and sat next to Lin Xiu. The prefect Percy shook his hand tightly. The twin brothers of the Weasley family shouted, "We have Potter! We have Potter!" Afterwards, Ron was also sorted into Gryffindor, and he sat next to Harry. "Everyone in our Weasley family is a Gryffindor," Ron said with pride. The rest of the people were sorted out soon. Albus Dumbledore, who was sitting on the golden chair in the guest of honor, stood up and looked at the students with a smile on his face. "Welcome everyone," he said. "Welcome everyone to Hogwarts. Before the banquet, I want to say a few words. That is, idiot, crying nose, residue, twist. Thank you everyone." He sat down again. Everyone applauded and cheered. The next moment, the plates in front of everyone were filled. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, all kinds of delicious food are available. Many students were already starving and started eating directly. While eating, Harry sensed something strange. He subconsciously looked up at the guest of honor. Hagrid was drinking wildly. Professor McGonagall was talking to Professor Dumbledore. Professor Quirrell, who was wearing a funny scarf, was talking to a teacher with greasy black hair, a hooked nose, and sallow skin. Suddenly, the hooked-nosed teacher looked straight into Harry's eyes over Professor Quirrell's scar. Harry suddenly felt the scar on his forehead burning. The hooked-nosed teacher quickly looked away, and the pain in Harry's forehead scar disappeared. He asked Percy, the prefect beside him, about the identity of the hooked-nosed teacher, but the answer he got made him feel bad. "That's Professor Snape, Severus Snape. He teaches potions, but he is also good at dark magic." Harry thought the hooked-nosed teacher didn't seem to like him at all, but he didn't have time to care about it. After the burning pain of the scar on his forehead disappeared, he felt uncomfortable all over, just like every time he changed from a boy to a girl. Harry fell on the table in a daze. Amid the exclamations of the people around him, Harry saw the smooth wine-red hair in front of him and heard the voice in his throat become thin. He knew that he had become a girl again. Wow! At the guest of honor's seat, Snape frowned and looked in the direction of the Slytherin table, but found that Malfoy and a group of Slytherin students were booing at the Gryffindor table. He looked in the direction of everyone's sight and found that not only Slytherin, but the people in the entire restaurant were looking at the Gryffindor table, focusing on the front half of the table. Snape clearly remembered that it was where Harry Potter sat. Snape couldn't help but flash disgust in his heart. Harry Potter, the son of the arrogant James. Even though he had promised Dumbledore before that he would protect Harry well, the moment he saw Harry Potter's face that looked like James Potter, hatred surged in his heart. Snape couldn't figure it out. Harry Potter was also Lily's child. So how come only his eyes looked like Lily's? He subconsciously looked at Harry's seat, wanting to see if this Potter had done anything wrong. But Snape saw a head of long burgundy hair. The girl with long burgundy hair fainted in Harry Potter's seat. Just one glance. The girl's profile drew out the figure that Snape had hidden in his heart. Wah! Snape stood up suddenly, and everyone in the guest of honor's seat, except Dumbledore who was staring at Harry, all looked at him sideways. But Snape didn't care about the surprised eyes of other teachers. He walked down the guest of honor seat and walked towards the Gryffindor table step by step. The closer he got, the more the girl's figure overlapped with the Lily in his memory. Snape's heart was in turmoil. Otherwise, he would not have called out to the figure of the Gryffindor girl softly after knowing that Lily was dead. Lily. Chapter 28. Wow. The golden treasure chest dropped by Snape. Lily. Snape's call was so soft that only he could hear it. Naturally, the figure lying on the table did not respond. On the contrary, the Gryffindor students around him moved a little further away from Snape, but still protected Harry tightly. Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw students poked their heads out, curious about what happened. The Gryffindors protected Harry very tightly. At the Slytherin table, a group of people led by Malfoy wanted to continue laughing, but when Malfoy saw Harry's red hair after the transformation through the gap in the crowd, he immediately fell silent. Malfoy thought of a terrible possibility. Could it be that the red-haired girl who I was attracted to on the train was Harry Potter? Just thinking about this possibility made him pale. And Dumbledore, who was in the guest of honor's seat, smiled and said, "Professor Snape, it seems that Harry's body seems to have some problems." Snape was already standing beside Harry at this time. Without Dumbledore's words, Snape subconsciously stepped forward to check Harry's condition just by looking at Harry's face that was extremely similar to Lily's. After a moment, he was silent for a short while. After sighing, Snape took out a bottle of potion from his arms and put it in front of the unconscious Harry's nose. After opening the lid, he fanned it gently. In just a moment, the red-haired girl Harry had turned back to the face that Snape hated so much. The face that looked like James Potter. Snape stood there and waited for a while, as if he was expecting Harry to turn back into Lily's appearance. But until Harry's eyelids moved slightly and he was about to wake up, nothing happened. Snape turned around abruptly, walked back to the guest of honor's seat, and stood next to Dumbledore. "Albus, we need to talk." Dumbledore smiled and said, "Don't worry, the school song tonight hasn't been sung yet." All the teachers' faces froze. Dumbledore flicked his wand lightly, and a long golden ribbon floated out of the wand, twisting and winding like a snake above the high dining table to form lines of text. Everyone chooses a favorite tune. Dumbledore said, "Ready, sing." Except for Snape, all the teachers and students sang loudly, "Hogwarts, Hogwarts, 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 please teach us knowledge." Whether we are bald old men or children with broken knees, our minds can accept some interesting things. Because now our minds are empty, full of air, dead flies, and trivialities. Teach us some valuable knowledge. Give us back what we have forgotten. You just do your best, leave the rest to us. We will study hard until we turn into dung. Everyone finished singing the school song in a scattered manner. Only the twin brothers of the Weasley family continued to sing along with the slow melody of Funeral March. Dumbledore used his wand to conduct the last few bars for both of them, and when they finished singing, he applauded the loudest. Music, he wiped his eyes and said, is more charming than anything we do here. It's time to go to bed now. Everyone go back to the dormitory. Seeing Harry disappear in the crowd, Dumbledore took Snape back to the headmaster's office. "Albus, what happened to the child?" Snape asked. "Why can he turn into Lily's appearance?" "At the beginning of August, Hagrid sent me a letter saying that Harry looked very similar to Lily. I have observed Harry's transformation privately, and there is no trace of magic." Dumbledore said, "He is either a kind of metamorphmagus or it is the effect of the potion." Snape said calmly, "I have confirmed it during the time I checked Harry's condition just now. It is a kind of potion similar to Polyjuice Potion. Ordinary Polyjuice Potion has a duration and needs to be consumed continuously. But Harry's situation is obviously different." Snape frowned. The Polyjuice Potion in his body seems to be working all the time, but the effect of the transformation is activated from time to time. I have never seen this before. From the examination just now, I can only confirm that whether the transformation effect is activated is related to Harry's emotions and state of mind. Dumbledore said, "Severus, can you solve this problem?" Snape frowned. "I don't understand why you want me to ruin a good thing. Harry is the key to fighting Voldemort." Dumbledore said, "According to the prophecy, Voldemort chose Harry as his nemesis. So Harry is destined to destroy Voldemort." "Professor Dumbledore, there are a few things I don't understand." Snape said, "I don't understand why you don't deal with Voldemort yourself, but rely on Harry, who has just entered school and can't even do spells. Will Harry grow up to the point where he can deal with the Dark Lord?" "I believe him," Snape said with a dark face. "I believe in the Lily side of him, but I don't have much confidence in the Potter side. You will see. If I do it myself, there will be a Dark Lord more terrifying than Voldemort in this world." Dumbledore said calmly, "I'm not bragging. I am much smarter than many people. If I am exposed to power and ambition again, I am afraid that not many people can deal with me. On the other hand, some time ago, I confirmed a guess. Dumbledore took out an exquisite locket from the drawer. This is... Snape felt the familiar breath of black magic coming from it, and his face changed drastically. The Horcrux of the Dark Lord? Yes, Dumbledore nodded. This is Voldemort's Horcrux. In fact, I didn't spend much effort to get it. There are probably not many things in this world that can make you spend a lot of effort, Professor. Severus, thank you for your compliment. Dumbledore smiled. The method Voldemort used to hide the Horcrux is indeed a little dangerous for ordinary wizards, but I think this is not enough for a Horcrux that concerns his life. With that level of protection, it may explain one thing. Snape figured out the key to the problem. The Dark Lord has more than one Horcrux. It's just a guess at the moment, Severus, Dumbledore said, but we can be sure of one thing at present. At least the Horcrux in my hand is still intact, and Voldemort has not completely dissipated. Wait until I use the black magic on the pendant to connect. After finding and destroying the remaining Horcruxes, Voldemort can die like a mortal. If possible, Snape said softly, please let me. Dumbledore shook his head. Now is not the time to talk about this. It will take time. Severus, are you sure you can solve the abnormality in Harri? I can try, Snape nodded slowly. It takes time. I will pay more attention in the potion class. Don't worry, we still have time. When he was about to leave, Snape looked back at Dumbledore. Professor, one last question. Why didn't you tell me immediately when Harry's abnormality first appeared? On the one hand, it's because the abnormality in Harri has temporarily disappeared. I think you still need to see it with your own eyes after school starts to make the most accurate judgment, Dumbledore said with a smile. On the other hand, I'm worried that you won't be calm enough after seeing that face. Snape left in silence. In the Gryffindor dormitory, Lin Xiu, who was assigned to a dormitory with Harri, Ron, and Neville, couldn't sleep. In addition to the emotional treasure chest that many wizards had revealed earlier, the latest pop-up message on the system page made him uneasy. Ding! Severus Snape's shock was detected. Drawing treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have won a gold treasure chest. Chapter 29. Crazy opening of treasure chests. Rich harvest looking at the golden treasure chest in the system space. Lin Xiu was in a very happy mood. Although Severus Snape was a cold, calculating, sarcastic, and mean person, Lin Xiu knew that Snape was a good professor just from the fact that he dropped the first golden treasure chest. Before opening the treasure chest, Lin Xiu washed his face and hands several times, hoping to have better luck. Just when he returned to his bed and was considering whether to open the gold treasure chest or the bronze treasure chest first, the system showed a new prompt. Ding! Draco Malfoy's emotional emotion was detected. Drawing treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You won a silver treasure chest. Lin Xiu was a little confused. They're still masters? Who did Malfoy have emotional emotions for in the middle of the night? Lin Xiu actually had a vague answer in his heart, the red-haired girl who Harri transformed into. Otherwise, Malfoy's emotional emotions would not drop an emotional treasure chest here at Lin Xiu. No matter what, I am just a ruthless treasure chest opening machine, and I don't care about anything else. Open the treasure chest. Ding! The bronze treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining superb memory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining underwater breathing. Ding! The silver treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining elementary transfiguration mastery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining wizard chess mastery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the perfect Animagus training method. Congratulations to the host for obtaining an unrepairable money bag. Ding! The gold treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining intermediate potion mastery. A series of rewards, dazzling. Superb memory. Hermione Granger is a very talented witch. With her superb memory, she had tried several simple spells, and they all worked even before she entered Hogwarts to receive magical education. Professor Remus Lupin, who taught Hermione defense against the dark arts in her third year, said that Hermione was the smartest little witch he had ever seen and was on the borderline of genius. After using it, you will have a superb memory, and sometimes you can even remember everything you read. Lin Xiu immediately chose to use it. To be fair, if there was no system, most of his abilities would be at an average level among wizards. Learning spells in the future and remembering all kinds of spells would give him a headache. Now with superior memory, learning spells is at least not a problem. Then, Lin Xiu looked at other props. Underwater breathing. After using it, your breathing will become more effective, and you'll gain the ability to breathe underwater. When you enter the water, your body will automatically obtain oxygen for breathing from the water. After using it, Lin Xiu felt as if all the pores on his body were open. He subconsciously took a deep breath, and the whole person became much more energetic, which was a disguised way to enhance his physical strength and energy recovery speed. This ability is pretty good. Then, there were several silver treasure chests. Mastery of elementary transfiguration. In the first transfiguration class at Hogwarts, Hermione easily turned a match into a needle. Professor McGonagall showed the whole class how the match turned into a needle, and one end was very sharp and showed Hermione a rare smile. After using it, you will be proficient in transfiguration to a certain extent, and your understanding of spells will be more profound. At first, Lin Xiu didn't quite understand what the deeper understanding of spells mentioned in the system description meant, but when he used elementary transfiguration mastery, many images appeared in his mind. In the transfiguration class, a tabby cat squatted on the teacher's desk. A moment later, the tabby cat jumped off the desk and turned into Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall waved her wand and turned a table into a pig, running around in the classroom. A running rabbit turned into a motionless slipper. A mouse turned into a cat. The static statue seemed to come alive, waving the long sword in its hand. Living things become dead things. Dead things become living things. Cross-species conversion. Human body transformation. Transfiguration is a bit awesome. Lin Xiu increased the weight of transfiguration in his heart and ranked it on par with potions. Wizard chess mastery. Ron Weasley is very good at playing wizard chess. Wizard chess is exactly the same as Muggle chess, but its chess pieces are all alive, so it makes people feel more like commanding an army to fight. After using it, you will be proficient in wizard chess and have a good understanding of wizard chess. When your transfiguration attainment reaches a certain level, you can transform into a giant stone soldier chess piece and a more powerful queen chess piece. Lin Xiu originally thought that the wizard chess mastery that burst out of Ron's emotional treasure chest was a useless talent, but he didn't expect that it could be linked with transfiguration. Not bad. After using it, Lin Xiu had a lot of rules about wizard chess and detailed information about wizard chess pieces in his mind. Finally, there were 2 props left from the silver treasure chest. Perfect animagus training method. Peter Pettigrew has always been looked down upon, but he successfully learned the extremely difficult animagus transformation. After he leaked the secret to Voldemort, which led to the death of James and Lily Potter by Voldemort, he was chased by Sirius. In order to escape, Peter Pettigrew cut off his right index finger, shouted that Sirius had killed someone, and then blew up an entire street, killing a large number of Muggles. Peter Pettigrew took advantage of the chaos to transform himself into a mouse and hid in the gutter, hiding in the Weasley family for 12 years. It takes several years to become an animagus, turning a person into the animal that suits him best, but it is possible to fail. After using this prop, you will get the perfect animagus training method. According to this method, you will definitely become an animagus. Animagus. Lin Xiu is still a little interested in the animagus transformation. The main reason is that this transformation is almost impossible to be seen through by others. This can greatly improve Lin Xiu's concealment ability and safety. He decided to wait until he was familiar with the pace of study and life in Hogwarts, and then find time to try to contact them. Unrepairable purse. People often say that you will never see a Malfoy family member at a crime scene, even if the wand used in the crime is covered with their fingerprints. They have completely independent wealth. They do not need to work to make a living. They usually play the role of the real power behind the throne, and are happy to see others work hard like donkeys or take responsibility for failure. As Lucius Malfoy's favorite son, Draco Malfoy is destined to inherit the huge wealth of the Malfoy family. Therefore, he often has some strange things in his hands, such as an unrepairable purse. This purse is connected to the Malfoy family's private vault. It connects to the vault every day and drops some pocket money. Lin Xiu had an extra gray bag in his hand, which looked unremarkable. But as soon as he took the bag in his hand, he found that the bag was a little heavy. Lin Xiu opened the bag and touched 3 golden wizard coins from it. 3 galleons? The Malfoy family is really rich. Lin Xiu took out the galleons and was in a good mood. With the support of the Malfoy family's money bag, his economic pressure in the wizarding world can be eased a lot. Thank you for the gift from Malfoy. This gratitude was sincere, but it couldn't cover up Lin Xiu's excitement, because the next thing was the most important thing. Intermediate potions mastery. Severus Snape has an amazing talent in potion making. He has been a potion teacher at Hogwarts for 15 years, and his attainments in potion making have far exceeded the level of following prescriptions. When Snape was still a student, he was able to improve the operating instructions in the textbook so that he could make potions faster and better. He is one of the few people who can brew extremely complex potions, such as Veritaserum and Wolfsbane. Simple potion making has risen to the height of art in Snape's hands. After using it, you will gain a lot of knowledge about potions, and the success rate of your potions will be greatly improved. You can reduce the effect of the evil potions on you to a certain extent. Lin Xiu chose to use it without hesitation. The next moment, he felt that there was a lot more knowledge about potions in his mind. It was as if he had been brewing potions for many years and knew them well. Great! Lin Xiu was a little excited. With the ability to make potions, he can use it to mix all kinds of potions he needs in the future, and his own strength and safety will be greatly improved. In addition, he can also use potions to gradually accumulate wealth in the wizarding world. The future is bright. Lin Xiu was a little itchy, and he wished that the potion class would be right away so that he could practice it himself. But unfortunately, the schedule for the freshmen at Hogwarts this year has been determined. Tomorrow, September 2nd, is Monday. There is only one herbology class in the morning, followed by defense against the dark arts on Tuesday. The 2 classes of potions are on Friday. But when Lin Xiu fell asleep with regret, he woke up the next morning and got some unexpected news from the Weasley twins in the Gryffindor common room. Has our freshman schedule changed? The first class this morning is potions. Ron was puzzled. Why did our schedule change? I don't even have time to read the potions book. Even if you have time to prepare, you can't read. George laughed and said to his brother, besides, even if you read the book, it's useless. Professor Snape has always disliked us Gryffindors. I heard that Professor Snape personally went to talk to Headmaster Dumbledore about the change of class schedule this week. Fred gloated. I guess he must want to show his power to you little wizards early. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I had finished reading the book, Magic Potions and Liquids, during the summer vacation. Harry's face was not very good. He learned about what happened in the hall from other people last night. He turned into a girl, and it was Snape, the professor of potions, who saved him. But Harry also clearly remembered that before he fainted and turned into a girl, Snape's eyes were full of hatred. Harry was depressed. Unlucky. He didn't expect that his start at Hogwarts would be a bad potions class. Seeing Harry's expression, Lin Xiu recalled the scene he saw in the hall last night and suggested with a smile, Harry, I don't think you need to worry. Professor Snape was very concerned about you last night. Yes. George and Fred were both fanning the flames. If you can turn into that red-haired girl like last night, then there will be absolutely no problem with your potions class today. I noticed last night that when Professor Snape stared at the girl Harry, although he didn't smile, his eyes curved, and he was obviously in a good mood, there were several more wrinkles on his face. Ron looked at Harry expectantly. Hermione frowned and said, those are all unorthodox methods. We should still win in class with solid knowledge and basic skills. Harry said uncertainly, Professor Snape shouldn't target us too much. Fred and George smiled. Then we'll see. It's almost 7:30. Let's go to the hall for breakfast together. Maybe we can run into Professor Snape. The group followed Fred and George to the hall. It was still early, and there were almost no people in the hall. Breakfast was already set on the dining table in the hall. Fred and George had already left with their senior friends. Hermione took out her potions book and continued to prepare and review. Lin Xiu was reading beside Hermione. After gaining mastery in potions last night, he could easily understand and master the contents of these books, so he read with great interest. Harri was influenced by Hermione and Lin Xiu and remembered what the Weasley brothers said in the morning. He couldn't help but feel a little nervous, so he took out a book but couldn't read it at all. Not to mention Ron. He was trying hard to gnaw on the chicken leg. Hogwarts breakfast usually doesn't provide such greasy food, but Ron applied for it separately, so a lot of delicious roasted chicken legs were prepared for him. Just when Ron had almost finished gnawing on the chicken leg and was about to flip through the book casually to pretend to be hardworking, he noticed the abnormality of Harri next to him. Ron whispered, "Harri, your hair. You've changed again." Harri then realized that when he was nervous, he had unconsciously turned into a girl again. His long red hair blocked a large part of his vision, which made him even more upset. At this moment, Professor Snape came in from the main entrance, walked around the Slytherin table, and walked behind Harri. When he noticed Harri's red hair, his steps couldn't help but become much lighter. When Snape walked past Harri and saw Harri holding the potion textbook and reading it carefully, he nodded with satisfaction. And before he could hide his smile, he quickly returned to the teacher's seat and ate breakfast happily. It was obviously the milk bread he was used to, but Snape had a very happy breakfast today. He was very glad that he asked Professor Dumbledore to change the schedule for this week. Chapter 30. Professor Snape actually washed his hair. The potion class was held in an underground classroom, which was colder than many places in Hogwarts. There were many glass jars along the way, with many whitish animal specimens soaked in them. The first row was occupied by Slytherin students, so Lin Xiu and other Gryffindor wizards sat in the second row. Hermione was a little frustrated that she didn't get the first row. Lin Xiu comforted her. Professor Snape is the dean of Slytherin College. He will be more or less partial to his students. I think sitting in the second row is just right. Ron nodded in agreement. That's what George and Fred said. We can see if Professor Snape is really like that today. Many Slytherin students in the front row smiled as a matter of course. They had long known from their brothers who had entered Slytherin College that Professor Snape was very partial. There is no doubt that today's potion class will be the stage for them, Slytherin, to shine. Harri sat in his seat and sighed. I hope Professor McGonagall will be on our side. Last night, the Weasley twins said that Professor McGonagall was impartial. Even though Professor McGonagall was the head of Gryffindor, she gave the Gryffindor little wizards a lot of homework. Soon, the class time came, and the door of the potions classroom opened automatically, and a figure walked in with the wind, and the black robe fluttered behind him. Everyone in the classroom soon discovered that Professor Snape had washed his hair. The hair was fluffy and smooth, and there was a little moisture. The little wizards in Gryffindor basically didn't know what this meant, but only Ron understood the strangeness. He whispered to Harri beside him. Something's wrong. Snape actually washed his hair. According to George and Fred, since Snape joined Hogwarts as a teacher, his hair has always been greasy, as if he had never washed it. It was amazing that he washed his hair today for the first time. Harri was also extremely shocked. You mean Professor Snape hasn't washed his hair for so many years? For a moment, Harri felt pity for Snape. Although Harri didn't have a good life in the Dursleys' house for so many years, he could at least wash his hair and take a bath on time. Snape washed his hair today. Maybe something strange will happen, Harri. We have to be careful. Ron quickly made a decision. After class, I'll go back and ask George what's going on. Among the little wizards in Slytherin, most people didn't care about the reason. Only Malfoy and his two followers understood that this meant something special. Crabbe, the attendant, whispered, Malfoy, your father was Professor Snape's dean when he was in school, and they have always had a good relationship. In my opinion, Dean Snape values you the most. Look how much Dean Snape values us. Many people say that he seems to have not washed his hair for 15 years. He washed it for us today. Yes. Malfoy ignored his low mood, and a strong sense of pride emerged in his heart. Of course, I have ancient pure blood in my body, and I am born extraordinary. Dean Snape, such an excellent wizard, will naturally be closer to me. Malfoy finally recovered from the shock of Harry turning into a girl last night. Snape ignored the looks of other young wizards and looked in Harry's direction. After noticing the shock in Harry's eyes, he nodded with satisfaction. At the start of term dinner, he noticed that many young wizards, including Harry, looked at their hair in a strange way, as if they were disgusted. In the past, Snape didn't care about this at all. But after he saw Harry turn into Lily last night, he couldn't help but care. So before class this morning, Snape found the quick smoothing hair spray thrown in the corner and made his hair smooth and shiny after washing. Snape didn't use it before because the quick smoothing hairspray was invented by the Potter family, and he always hated James Potter. Now the situation is completely different. Harry showed the side of Lily. So Snape washed his hair before class, and now it seems to be very effective. Snape picked up the roll call book, cleared his throat, and started to call the roll. Harry Potter. After calling Harry's name, Snape couldn't help but pause. Looking at Harry's red hair, Snape could hardly control himself from thinking about Lily. Finally, he continued to call the names. Malfoy's two followers, Crabbe and Goyle, thought that Snape's pause when calling Harry's name was to embarrass Harry. They covered their mouths and laughed, but Malfoy said nothing. After calling the names, Snape raised his eyes and looked at the little wizards in the class, of course, mainly at Harry. Most of the time, Snape's eyes were cold and empty, which would make people think of two dark tunnels. But today Snape's black eyes were full of kindness. You are here to learn the precise science and strict craftsmanship of this potion preparation, he said. His voice was almost slightly higher than a whisper, but everyone heard every word he said. Since there are no foolish wand waving here, many of you will not believe that this is magic. I don't expect you to truly appreciate the beauty of the simmering pot with white smoke and bursts of fragrance. You will not really understand the magical power of the liquid flowing into people's veins, which makes people excited and confused. I can teach you how to improve your reputation, brew glory, and even prevent death, but there must be one thing. That is, you are not the kind of fools I often meet. The whole audience was silent, and Hermione leaned forward, as if to prove that she was not a fool. After Snape finished his opening remarks, he looked around the classroom and finally looked at Harry. Harry, he said softly, what would I get if I added narcissus root powder to wormwood infusion? Chapter 31 Lily adds 30 points. What would I get if I added powder narcissus root to the wormwood infusion? Harry glanced at Ron beside him and found that Ron was as stunned as he was. A little further away, Lin Xiu was calm and seemed to know the answer, while Hermione, next to Lin Xiu, raised her hands high in the air. But Snape just looked at Harry. I don't know, sir. Harry said. Very good, Snape smiled. Harry, I appreciate your honesty. At the table in front of Harry, Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle looked at each other. Potter didn't answer the question, so Professor Snape didn't deduct points? Malfoy made his own guess. I think Professor Snape wants to ask a few more questions and finally deduct several points from Gryffindor. Yes, Professor Snape has always been venomous and likes to say the opposite. His two followers, Crabbe and Goyle, agreed. He is praising Potter now, and he must be mocking him later. So, the three of them continued to look forward to the next development. On the other side, Snape completely ignored Hermione's raised arm. Well, let me change the question. He just looked at Harry. If I need a bezoar, where would you find it? Hermione was the only one who raised her hand, and her hand was raised high, and Harry had no idea what a bezoar was. I don't know, sir. Harry lowered his head. Very good, Snape smiled and nodded. The courage to admit your own shortcomings. This is an excellent quality. Harry heard Snape's words and finally mustered up the courage to look into his eyes, but found that Snape turned his face away suddenly. Harry, Snape seemed to have slowed down, looking at Harry with encouragement in his eyes. What is the difference between aconitum naviculatum and aconitum camigasum? Hermione even stood up, her hand stretched straight to the ceiling of the underground classroom. But Snape still ignored Hermione's shaking arm. I don't know, Harry whispered, but I think Hermione knows the answer. Why don't you ask her? I am moved by your willingness to give your classmates a chance to perform. Snape forced a kind smile on his face. Harry, don't be nervous. Just talk to me as if you were your father or friend. I believe that you have a high talent in potions. You just need some time to grow. If I were you, I would put all my energy into potions. You will definitely be an amazing potion master in the future. After all, you really look like. Anyway, your noble spirit touched me. Gryffindor plus 30 points. In the classroom, the little wizards of Slytherin and Gryffindor all widened their eyes. Did Professor Snape get poisoned when he was brewing potions last night? He is not such a person. According to what the Slytherin and Gryffindor seniors said, Professor Snape has always hated Gryffindor. Even if Gryffindor students answer questions correctly, they will be deducted a few points by Professor Snape's temporary rule. Why is Harry an exception? Has Dean Snape given up on Slytherin? Malfoy's two followers, Crabbe and Goyle, felt like the sky was about to fall. Snape didn't seem to be interested in getting close to Malfoy, who came from a noble, pure-blood family, but was closer to that Potter. When Crabbe and Goyle turned their heads to look at Malfoy, they felt even worse. Malfoy was not angry at all, but had a smile on his face. Crabbe and Malfoy had known each other since childhood, and he dared to speak frankly. Are you so angry that you're out of your mind? How can you still laugh? I just understood something. Malfoy shook his head slightly, with a mysterious smile on his face. Dean Snape is setting a trap for Potter. Set a trap? Crabbe and Goyle were puzzled. That's right, Malfoy was very sure. Think about it. If I throw you directly into the ice water in winter, what will happen to you? I think I will be frozen to death, Goyle said honestly, and I will definitely feel very uncomfortable when I freeze to death. Then what will happen if I let you roast by the stove for half an hour before throwing you into the ice water in winter? The pain I feel will be 10 times more than if I were thrown directly into the ice water. Crabbe seemed to understand Malfoy's reasoning. It's better to throw me directly into the ice water. This is where Professor Snape is smart, Malfoy said confidently. Dean Snape's extra points now are just to relax Potter's vigilance. The higher you fly, the worse you will fall. Let's wait and see. The potions class continued. Snape answered all the questions that Harry couldn't answer just now. Narcissus root powder and wormwood can be combined to make a very effective sleeping potion. The scientific name is water of life and death. Bezoar is a kind of stone taken from the stomach of goats, which has a strong detoxification ability. As for Aconitum naviculatum and Aconitum camijasum, they're the same plant, also collectively known as aconitum. Do you understand? Why don't you write all this down? The classroom was full of rustling sounds of quills being picked up and written on parchment. Then, Snape tapped the blackboard lightly with his wand, and the potion formula appeared on it. The students were divided into groups of 2 by Snape and began to prepare a simple potion to treat scabies. Snape dragged his long black cloak around the classroom, stopping from time to time and mercilessly criticizing students who made even the slightest mistake in operation. But he often walked to Harry's group and stopped to watch. Harry, when boiling slugs, the heat needs to be controlled. High heat is needed in the early stage, and then it can be turned to low heat. The snake's fangs need to be ground into powder so that it can be fully mixed with other ingredients in the potion. The amount of dried nettle can be less. The 2 followers, Crabbe and Goyle, looked at Malfoy with almost admiration. Sure enough, everything was just as Malfoy said. Professor Snape began to cause trouble for Gryffindor. Malfoy smiled and whispered to Crabbe next to him, "Look, what did I say? Professor Snape is starting to show off, and Potter obviously doesn't know how to make potions." "Shut up." Snape's ears heard it very clearly, and he looked at Malfoy viciously. "Malfoy, do you think you performed well? You seem to be very confident about the potion you brewed." Snape strode to Malfoy, scooped up a large spoonful with a spoon, and raised it with disgust. "Mr. Malfoy, tell me, what color is this, huh?" "Professor." Malfoy's pure-blood pride disappeared without a trace at this time. "It's turbid blue." "Ah, it seems that your eyes are not broken." Malfoy was a little aggrieved. "I just haven't finished the operation, and my venomous snake tooth powder has not been added." "Yes," Snape said slowly and methodically. "You haven't added the venomous snake tooth powder yet, but you have time to laugh at Harry here. How can you still have the face to laugh at others?" Why don't you do it quickly? Is the head of a troll on your head? Malfoy was very aggrieved, but he comforted himself in his heart that this was still Professor Snape's trap. He looked at Harry hatefully, expecting Snape to punish Harry with thunder. But Malfoy saw Snape walk to Harry, who was in the red-haired girl's state, and after checking the clear purple scabies potion that Harry had brewed, he praised him generously. Perfect scabies potion. Lily, at another 30 points. Malfoy's heart finally died. Chapter 32. Snape's double standard. Who is Lily? When Snape called out Lily's name, this question flashed through the minds of many young wizards in the whole class. Malfoy bravely said, "Professor, it seems that there is no one named Lily here. Obviously, I am not blind or deaf." Snape's face immediately sank. "Mr. Malfoy, I don't need you to remind me of such an obvious question. Slytherin will be deducted 5 points." Many people were so scared that they dare not speak. Even if they were curious about the name Lily, they did not dare to discuss it publicly. Ron took advantage of the gap when Snape was teaching Malfoy a lesson and quietly asked Harry, "Why did Professor Snape look at you and call out the name Lily? Is there anyone named Lily in today's potions class?" "Lily is my mother's name," Harry said. "So that's how it is," Ron said. "So, Professor Snape knows your mother, and they seem to have a good relationship. You see, he's quite kind to you." Harry nodded. "It seems so. So it seems that Professor Snape is not as scary as George and Fred said." Ron whispered to Harry beside him. "You see, as the head of Slytherin, he even taught Slytherin's Malfoy a lesson. So selfless." In this potion class, Snape spent almost half of the time hanging around Harry. Therefore, when Ron and Harry were whispering, he was caught by him. "Mr. Weasley, do you think you performed perfectly in the potion class?" Weasley disturbed Harry in class. "Gryffindor will deduct 10 points." Ron didn't dare to move immediately. But there's a reason why the potion class is divided into 2 groups. The current young wizards are basically still novices in potion learning, and many potion processing and brewing tasks require 2 people to take turns. Ron was so scared by Snape that he dared not do anything. Harry was so tired that he was a little flustered when he was brewing potions by himself. Snape frowned. "Weasley, can't you see that Harry needs help? Are you just waiting for others to work? As far as I know, there seems to be no such tradition in the Weasley family." Weasley isolates his classmates in class. Gryffindor will lose 10 points. Ron wanted to cry, but had no tears. It was not right for him to get close to Harry, and it was not right not to get close to Harry. No matter what he did, Gryffindor would lose points. In the end, Ron had to carefully keep a considerable distance from Harry, which made it impossible for him to whisper to Harry, but he could reach out and help Harry brew potions from a distance. In this way, Snape was satisfied to inspect other desks. Of course, he finally walked to Harry's desk and gave one-on-one tutoring. After Harry finished making a simple scabies potion according to the basic process in the textbook, Snape suddenly said, "Harry, you can try making the scabies potion again. When adding the venomous snake powder, you can consider adding twice the standard amount of venomous snake tooth powder." Hermione raised her hand. "Professor, but it's not written like this in the book." Snape's face immediately sank. "Miss Granger, you dare to contradict me, Gryffindor." In today's potion class, Harry felt Snape's kindness to him, so he became a lot bolder. After writing down the tips Snape mentioned, Harry also said, "Professor Snape, the steps you just mentioned are different from what you wrote on the blackboard and what is recorded in the textbook." Snape looked at Harry's green eyes and stopped talking. Gryffindor deducts 1 point. Harry is studious and inquisitive. Gryffindor adds 5 points. He said to Harry patiently, "This is the formula that I and myself have improved. It is more effective than the potion formula recorded in the book. I think you should master this potion formula." Hermione looked at Snape's obvious double-standard behavior and doubted her life. It was obviously the same question, but she raised it, which was to contradict the professor. Harry, who was in the female state, raised it, which was to be studious and inquisitive. Is there still justice in this world? And is there still law? The little witch is a little autistic. Lin Xiu gave Hermione a comforting look. "I can only say that Professor Snape is like this." Today's potion class has 2 periods, each lasting about 50 minutes. In the middle of the second period, Neville and Seamus Finnegan were brewing their group's potion. Neville assisted, and Seamus was mainly responsible for brewing. Suddenly, a large amount of acidic green smoke suddenly came out of the crucible that Seamus was operating, and a loud hissing sound was heard. Finally, it turned into a violent explosion. Lin Xiu reacted very quickly, and he directly pulled Hermione next to him to hide under the table. Snape's reaction was even faster, and he almost instantly turned into a puff of black smoke and blocked the girl Harri. He didn't even take out his wand, nor did he recite a spell. The potion that flew from Neville and Seamus' table was easily blocked. Of course, only the part in front of Harri was blocked. The students who were closer to Neville and Seamus were drenched by the potion, and suddenly a dozen red and swollen scabies appeared on their bodies. The potion classroom was filled with various screams of pain. Snape pointed his wand at Harry's cauldron, and the potion in the pot flew up and landed on the students affected by Seamus's explosion. The wailing sounds of pain disappeared a lot. "Obviously, your potion is well brewed, Harri," Snape said loudly. "Gryffindor gets 10 points for this excellent potion." Then, Snape looked at Seamus and Neville with a gloomy face. "I can understand that your potion caused scabies in other people," Snape said slowly and methodically. "I think you probably put the porcupine quills in without taking the pot off the fire. But what I can't understand is, Mr. Seamus," Snape's tone became sharper, "what on earth did you do to cause such a violent explosion in a crucible that wouldn't crack if it fell to the ground? Even if my grandmother, who has been dead for decades, crawled out of the grave to make potions, it wouldn't explode. Gryffindor will be deducted 30 points. Students who have scabies should go to the school hospital to see Ms. Pomfrey." Snape inspected the potions brewed by everyone in the class, except for the two groups of Harry, Ron, and Lin Xiu, Hermione. The potions brewed by the Gryffindor little wizards were found to have more or less problems. In the end, even if the 65 points earned by the girl Harry for Gryffindor were added, the total score of Gryffindor was reduced by 10 points after this class. Before the end of the potions class, Snape wanted to keep Harry to tell him something. But after they get out of class, he just handed Harry a bottle of potion and left in a hurry. After walking out of the depressing environment of the potions classroom, Ron's face was full of relief for surviving the disaster. Snape often deducted points from Fred and George. "Today, we only deducted 5 points in this class. That's great, better than Fred and them. There are no classes later today. Let's go to play with Hagrid." Harry looked at Lin Xiu. "Lin Xiu, will you go with us? Hagrid sent me an owl before and said he wanted to meet me and talk." Lin Xiu thought about it and nodded in agreement. On the one hand, he had not had close contact with Hagrid and was a little curious about Hagrid. Of course, the most important thing is that Hagrid's residence is close to the Forbidden Forest, and he also raises many small animals. Lin Xiu can go to Hagrid to test his affinity for magical animals. In addition, you can also see if you can make Hagrid have a relatively large emotional fluctuation and burst the emotional treasure chest. Let's go. Chapter 33, Snape. Understood. I'm going to kill Voldemort. Snape arrived at the door of the principal's office with ease. There was a spiral staircase at the door of the office, blocked by a stone statue of a griffin. The statue took the initiative to speak. Password: lemon sherbet candy. The statue made way. In the office, Dumbledore was sitting behind his desk eating candy. He handed one to Snape with a smile. "The latest cockroach skewers from Duke of Sizzleby. Would you like to try it?" Snape looked at the large basin of cockroach-like candies in the principal's office with disdain. "Professor Dumbledore, you call me here with a Patronus. Is there something important?" "There is an important but not so urgent matter that I think you need to know," Dumbledore said. "But before that, I want to know about Harry's situation." I gave him a bottle of potion that can alleviate the situation in Harry. When the potions class was over, Snape originally planned to keep Harry after class to find a way to study the unstable transformation effect on Harry. But when he saw a phoenix-shaped Patronus, he immediately realized that it was Dumbledore looking for him, and the situation was urgent. After all, using a Patronus to pass messages was a function developed by Dumbledore. And besides Dumbledore, Snape had not seen the second person who used a phoenix as a Patronus. Therefore, Snape left a bottle of potion to relieve the effect of transformation for Harri and rushed over directly. Severus, it's a good thing you are here. Dumbledore nodded. And what I want to tell you is also very simple. Dark forces have appeared in Hogwarts. Hagrid told me that the unicorns in the Forbidden Forest seem to have been attacked by someone recently. Hagrid told me that the mysterious man seems to be hunting for unicorn blood. Snape frowned. As a potion master, he knows all kinds of potion materials well and has a certain understanding of most magical animals. Unicorns are creatures with powerful magic. If a person kills a unicorn and drinks its blood, he will be cursed and will become half dead from then on. Normal people will hardly do this. After all, if you have to be cursed for the rest of your life, it is better to die directly. Who is it? Snape reacted almost instantly. It is Voldemort, who is hunting unicorns to prolong his life. Voldemort must be in a bad situation now, Snape said. Otherwise, he would directly summon the Death Eaters instead of targeting the unicorn. Severus, your logical thinking has always been good. Dumbledore said, yes, Voldemort is hiding in Hogwarts now. So, do you understand why I summoned you? Snape thought of the scene when he saw Lily's body, and his mind flashed back to the burgundy hair and green eyes of Harri after he turned into a girl. Understood, Snape drew out his wand. I'll go find Voldemort and kill him now. That's why I didn't tell you a lot of things before, Dumbledore sighed. Severus, calm down. Voldemort made a lot of Horcruxes. We can't really kill him until we find and destroy his Horcruxes. We need time and patience to destroy all of Voldemort's Horcruxes, Dumbledore said. Not to mention that Voldemort is now just a remnant soul, possessed by someone else. It has a strong ability to hide, but its power in this state is still very weak. Dumbledore, it sounds like you already know where Voldemort's true body is. Snape immediately understood the subtext. Let me think about it. I understand. Quirrell, right? He became a different person after traveling this summer. Snape showed disgust on his face. He even wore a ridiculous purple headscarf after school started, and he exuded a strange smell. I finally figured it out now. It must be some kind of magic potion that can calm the mind. Snape's wand was not put away, and a faint green light came out of it. I'll go and kill Quirrell. Severus, Quirrell's body and mind have been destroyed by Voldemort, too fragile. It's not difficult to kill him. Dumbledore said, but from my observation, Voldemort is possessed by Quirrell, and Quirrell has become Voldemort's temporary Horcrux. If you do something to Quirrell, it will be difficult not to attract Voldemort's attention. This will directly cut off your chance to sneak into Voldemort. The possibility of the Death Eaters is not conducive to our future plans. Snape said, as long as Voldemort has not been able to resurrect, we don't have to worry about this matter. Severus, just in case, Dumbledore said, after all, we haven't found all the Horcruxes yet. Before that, our behavior should not be too radical. I don't understand. Snape said, since you don't let me do it, why do you tell me these things? On the one hand, I hope you can act calmly and don't act rashly against Quirrell. Dumbledore ate a lemon sherbet candy. Severus, I believe in your wisdom. Even if I don't tell you today, I will soon find out that Quirrell is wrong. On the other hand, I have a plan that needs please help you execute. Harbin, Dumbledore said, in fact, I have conceived some links, and I need you to help me improve these links. Hogwarts is still the safest place in the entire wizard world. Severus, you can rest assured that Harri will never hurt any harm. He had heard similar words. Dumbledore sighed. He was not sighed because of Snape's accusations, but because he saw pain on Snape's face without expression. Snape put away the wand, but didn't rush to leave. Professor, since I can't kill people, then I can always do something to kill you, oh? For example, let him take some less poisonous potions, as long as the remnant of Voldemort in Quirrell doesn't notice it. Chapter 34, The Invisible Tycoon of Hogwarts. At 5 minutes to 3 in the afternoon, Lin Xiu and Ron followed Harri out of the castle and headed for the fields. Hermione only had a relatively better relationship with Lin Xiu now. So this time when she came to Hagrid's hunting lodge, Hermione did not come over and went to read a book by herself. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest, with a crossbow and a pair of rubber overshoes in front of the door. When Harri knocked on the door, there was a tense struggle and a few low barks from the house. Then Hagrid's voice came, "Stand back, Fong, stand back." The door of the wooden house was opened, and a big bearded face poked out. "Wait a minute," Hagrid said. "Stand back, Fong." Hagrid opened the door and let Lin Xiu and the other three in. He desperately grabbed a huge black hound. The cabin was not big, but it was decorated very warmly. Hams and pheasants were hung on the ceiling, and water was boiled in a copper kettle in the brazier. There was a big bed in the corner, and the bed was covered with bedding made of rags. "Yeah, don't be so excited." Hagrid patted the black hound's head gently with his big hand and let it go. Yiya immediately rushed towards Lin Xiu and the others. Ron was frightened and shouted, "Harri, Lin Xiu, let's run." Harri was a little nervous because of Ron shouting and subconsciously wanted to run with him. But the black hound had already rushed in front of the two of them, and Lin Xiu just stretched out his hand. "Good daw, sit down." Yiya, who had been charging fiercely just now, immediately squatted down next to Lin Xiu obediently. This scene made others marvel. Ron sighed, "Wow, such a big and fierce dog." Harri admired. "Lin Xiu, you can keep calm when you see such a big dog rushing towards you. You are so brave." "Don't worry. Yiyu is very docile. It won't bite." Hagrid looked at Lin Xiu with surprise. "But besides me, you're the first person who can make Yiyu so tame." Lin Xiu touched the shiny fur of the big black dog, and it felt really good. His fantastic animal affinity ability worked, and it was naturally easy to use words to make the Hound Fong do some simple actions. But unfortunately, it seemed that the other people did not generate much emotion. So Lin Xiu did not receive the reminder of the emotional treasure chest dropping. Hagrid poured boiling water into a large teapot and put the rock cakes on the plate. "Harri, are they new friends you met at Hogwarts? Introduce them to me." Harri nodded and pointed to the red-haired Ron and said, "This is Ron. The Weasley family, right?" Hagrid glanced at Ron's red hair and freckles on his face. "I spent a lot of energy to drive the Weasley twins out of the Forbidden Forest. This is Lin Xiu. The three of us came together on the train." "Yiya likes you very much, Lin Xiu," Hagrid said happily. "You must not be a bad person. Boys, try the rock cake I baked." The rock cake Hagrid handed over was a small round cake with a rough surface and irregular shape. As soon as Harri and Ron took a bite, they felt that their teeth were about to break, but in order not to spoil Hagrid's fun, they pretended to like it very much and told Hagrid about what happened in class today. "I think his attitude towards me seems to be different from that of other students." Harri told Hagrid about what happened in Snape's class. "This is a strange thing," Hagrid thought. "As far as I know, Snape has hardly ever liked any students. I guess this has something to do with Harry's changing appearance during class." Lin Xiu patted the hound Yaya, and it ran to play next to Ron. "Today, Harri turned into a girl in the potions class." "That's not surprising." Hagrid nodded. "As far as I know, Snape had a good relationship with Lily when he was at Hogwarts, but he and Harry's father. What happened between Professor Snape and my father?" Harri asked. "It's not an important matter." Hagrid shook his head and talked about another topic. "Harri, I wrote to Dumbledore about your transformation into a girl. He wrote back and told me to wait, saying that Professor Snape would solve it. Now it seems that it has been solved well. Yes, after the potion class today, Professor Snape gave me a bottle of potion. After drinking it, I returned to normal," Harri said, "but Professor Snape said that the ingredients of the potion in my body are weird. This is temporary. It's okay. Professor Snape is an absolute expert in potions." Hagrid comforted him, and then he looked at Ron and talked about another thing. "Ron, how is your brother Charlie? I like him very much. He has a way with animals." So Ron told Hagrid about Charlie's research on dragons, and Harri stared at a copy of the Daily Prophet on Hagrid's desk. The front page was about the illegal break-in at Gringotts. Latest report on the break-in at Gringotts. The investigation into the break-in at Gringotts on July 31st is still ongoing. It is generally believed that this was the work of unknown dark wizards and witches. The goblins at Gringotts reiterated today that nothing was stolen. The underground vaults searched by the intruders had in fact been emptied earlier that day. A spokesman for the Gringotts goblins said this afternoon, "We have no information on what is stored in the vault, Please do not interfere with this matter." "Hagrid," Harry said, "the break-in at Gringotts happened on my birthday. It is very likely that we were there when it happened." Hagrid did not dare to look Harry in the eye, but he did not answer Harry's question. Crunch, crunch. Just then, a crisp sound came from beside them. Lin Xiu was relatively idle in Hagrid's hut. He listened to Ron and Hagrid talking about raising dragons. He thought it was interesting, so he picked up the rock cake on the plate and started eating. Since he had opened Inhuman Constitution in Hagrid's emotional treasure chest before, his teeth became very good. Now he can easily chew the rock cake that Harry and Ron couldn't bite. Harry and Ron's eyes widened. "Lin Xiu, you actually eat so deliciously?" "I said rock cake is delicious, right?" Hagrid breathed a sigh of relief and diverted Harry's attention from the theft of Gringotts. "Boys, eat more." Ron suspected that he had taken the wrong rock cake just now. So he picked another piece from the plate and found that he still couldn't bite it at all, but his broken teeth hurt more. Several people drank afternoon tea in the cabin. When they parted, Ron covered his cheeks that were broken by the rock cake, and Harry was thinking about the theft of Gringotts with a lot on his mind. Only Lin Xiu was in a good mood, although Hagrid didn't get the emotional treasure chest this time. Lin Xiu used the Hound Fong to further verify the effectiveness of his magical animal affinity. On the other hand, that was some gifts from Hagrid. Hagrid seemed to feel guilty about avoiding Harry's questions. Before leaving, he gave each person a small gray cloth bag and a few rock cakes. "The things in the cloth bag are made from things I picked up in the Forbidden Forest. These things are not worth much, but they are quite strong for bandaging wounds." Lin Xiu opened the cloth bag and took a look and was immediately dazzled by the white light inside, a whole bag of unicorn tail hair. In Diagon Alley, a small bag of unicorn hair in the pharmacy costs a full 10 gold galleons. The amount Hagrid gave to Lin Xiu and the other three was probably 30 galleons for each person. Bandaging wounds with unicorn tail hair worth 30 gold galleons. Lin Xiu immediately respected Hagrid. Hagrid is the invisible rich man in Hogwarts. Chapter 35 Extra Points for Gryffindor. Because Professor Snape had asked Headmaster Dumbledore to change the first week schedule. After the potions class on Monday, the transfiguration class on Tuesday followed. This transfiguration class was taught by Gryffindor and Slytherin together, and Lin Xiu and Hermione sat at the same table. But until the bell rang, a tabby cat walked in from the door and sat at the teacher's desk. Harry and Ron did not come to the classroom. "Lin Xiu, I heard that Potter and Weasley are in the same dormitory with you," Hermione whispered. "Why didn't they come to class?" "Professor McGonagall is always strict, and this will deduct points from our Gryffindor." Lin Xiu sighed. Yesterday, the three of them went to Hagrid's hut, and Hagrid entertained the three with his own baked rock cakes. But Harry's mind was attracted by the Daily Prophet in Hagrid's room, and his mind was full of the theft of Gringotts. He was still thinking about it when he returned to the dormitory at night. Ron hurt himself because he tried to eat rock cakes several times in a row. He went back to the dormitory and groaned about his toothache. When the boys' dormitory finally became quiet, it was already late at night. Harry and Ron naturally did not wake up. Lin Xiu had the bonus of non-human constitution and was not affected at all. At this time, the sound of running came from outside the door. Harry and Ron rushed into the classroom breathlessly. They were right next to Lin Xiu and Hermione. Finally, Ron let out a long breath. "If we're caught by Professor McGonagall, her face will be very ugly. There is a cat," Ron said excitedly. "I heard from my dad that this is a tabby cat, a breed that muggles like to keep as pets. I wonder what it feels like to pet it." While Professor McGonagall hasn't come yet, Ron was just fantasizing in his heart, and Harry quietly touched the teacher's desk. Lin Xiu's eyes widened. "Can we only say that he is worthy of being a standard Gryffindor? Harry and Ron are so brave." That tabby cat was transformed by Professor McGonagall. Just before Harry reached out to touch the tabby cat, it jumped off the table and turned into Professor McGonagall. "Amazing!" Ron exclaimed. "Thank you for your evaluation, Mr. Weasley." "Professor McGonagall, you are late for the first transfiguration class? Maybe I should turn you and Potter into pocket watches, so that at least one of you could go to class on time," Harry said unconfidently. The spiral staircase always changes. We are lost. Then I will turn you into a map. Huh? Professor McGonagall turned back to the teacher's desk. You don't need a map to do what you want, right? The whole class laughed. The matter between Mr. Weasley and Mr. Potter is over. Professor McGonagall said seriously. But there is one thing I must remind you. Transfiguration is the most complicated and dangerous spell you will learn in Hogwarts. She said, anyone who makes trouble in my class will be asked to leave and will never be allowed to come in again. The classroom was suddenly silent. Then, Professor McGonagall waved her wand and turned her desk into a pig. This move immediately stunned everyone present. As the saying goes, laymen watch the excitement, experts watch the doorway. Lin Xiu had opened elementary transfiguration mastery from the silver treasure chest before, and he could see how powerful Professor McGonagall's move was better than other young wizards. Turning the desk into a living pig, turning dead things into living things. This is a high-level application of transfiguration. Other young wizards were attracted by Professor McGonagall's transfiguration and wanted to start learning it immediately, while Lin Xiu was even more curious. Professor McGonagall nodded with satisfaction. She's been teaching at Hogwarts for so many years, and she knows very well how to fully mobilize the enthusiasm of students. Taking advantage of the young wizard's yearning for transfiguration, Professor McGonagall struck while the iron was hot and taught them some theoretical knowledge of transfiguration. The most important of these is Gamp's basic laws of transfiguration, said Professor McGonagall. The first of these is that it is impossible to conjure delicious food out of thin air. The young wizards wrote furiously, taking down a lot of complicated and difficult notes. Finally, Professor McGonagall gave everyone a match and asked them to try to turn it into a needle. But it was not easy. Ron swung his wand at the matches on his desk, but there was no reaction. Instead, he turned one of his own hairs into a match. Harri poked the match on the table with his wand, and the wand flashed red, and the match was safe and sound. Malfoy gritted his teeth, and his wand was about to break the match. With a bang, Malfoy's hair caught fire. But it was not Malfoy's spell that failed, but Seamus behind him. After Seamus cast a spell on the match on the table, the match disappeared, and a small pit was blown out on the spot. The sparks fell on Malfoy's hair. My hair, my hair. Malfoy got up in panic, and Crabbe and Goyle beside him hurriedly put out the fire on Malfoy's hair. Professor McGonagall gently waved her wand. Aguamenti, clear water like a spring. A stream of clean water emerged from the end of her wand and put out the fire on Malfoy's hair. Mr. Finnegan, I just asked you to deform the match, not to make an explosion. Professor McGonagall sighed. Gryffindor will be deducted 1 point for this explosion. Professor McGonagall was also ruthless in deducting points from her own college. Crabbe, Goyle, take Mr. Malfoy to Madame Pomfrey for treatment. Malfoy was supported by Crabbe and Goyle and trotted out of the classroom. The explosion caused him a lot of psychological damage. Seamus, who had just completed an explosion, was extremely embarrassed and did not dare to make any big moves. Harri and Ron sighed. It's so difficult to turn a match into a needle. Lin Xiu has elementary transfiguration mastery, and the simple transformation of a match into a needle can be done easily. He lightly tapped the wand in his hand. The match on the table turned into a smooth silver needle. Professor McGonagall soon noticed the unusual movement in the classroom and rushed over. Perfect, Mr. Lin Xiu. Her eyes were full of admiration. You are very talented in transfiguration. 2 points for Gryffindor. Harri and Ron widened their eyes, and when Professor McGonagall walked a little further away, they lowered their voices and asked, Lin Xiu, how did you do it? It's not difficult. Actually, Lin Xiu said his own experience. When you transform, don't have too many distracting thoughts. Just think about the shape of the needle and various details, and you can easily succeed in the transformation. Ron and Harri tried immediately after hearing this, but they always failed. Harri sighed. I always think about the theft of Gringotts in my heart, and I can't calm down. Ron covered his cheek and hesitantly said, I think the main reason why I failed to transform was because I had a toothache yesterday. Even if Madame Pomfrey helped me cure it, I still felt that I would have a toothache. Next to Lin Xiu, Hermione, who had failed to transform at first, silently thought about Lin Xiu's words for a while and then lit the match with her wand. The match successfully changed. Professor McGonagall noticed this immediately. She picked up the needles that Lin Xiu and Hermione had successfully transformed and showed the whole class how the transformation was completed. "Miss Granger, you and Mr. Lin Xiu did a great job." Professor McGonagall smiled. "Gryffindor gets one more point because Miss Granger successfully transformed this time," Professor McGonagall said. "Of course, because Mr. Lin Xiu was the first to successfully transform, he gets more points." After class, she happily exempted Lin Xiu and Hermione from the transfiguration homework for the week, which made the other little wizards in the classroom extremely envious. Ron lamented, "I should have known not to eat Hagrid's rock cake yesterday." Harry sighed. He didn't want to continue to worry about the theft of Gringotts. The two of them came to the hall in a low mood to prepare for dinner. Harry didn't have much appetite, but Ron turned his grief and anger into appetite and ate a big chicken drumstick in one bite. Hermione sat next to Lin Xiu, and she was still a little excited. "Lin Xiu, you are amazing. I followed your instructions and transformed successfully." Lin Xiu smiled and said, "Hermione, you have a good talent." He remembered that his basic transfiguration mastery was originally opened from the emotional treasure box dropped by Hermione. After the transfiguration on Tuesday, it was the defense against the dark arts class on Wednesday. But when Harry and Ron arrived at the classroom on time, they found that the teacher, Quirrell, who came to the class was not there at all. In the end, they almost took a whole self-study class. After class, when Lin Xiu and others returned to the Gryffindor common room, the Weasley twins said mysteriously that they knew why Professor Quirrell didn't come to teach everyone. "I heard that Professor Quirrell fell and accidentally poured some kind of magic potion all over his body, and his whole body was covered with blisters like toads. We suspect Snape did it." Chapter 36 Flying Lesson. The news that Professor Quirrell suddenly had blisters all over his body spread throughout Gryffindor overnight. There is no doubt that it must be the work of the Weasley twins. In the Gryffindor common room, everyone was discussing with great interest how much Professor Snape had contributed to Quirrell's injury. At this time, Percy walked in with a notice. It said that later in the afternoon, Gryffindor and Slytherin students would have a flying class together. Many young wizards sighed and didn't even bother to discuss Snape and Quirrell. "What bad luck," Harry said dejectedly. "I'm afraid I'll make a fool of myself riding my broom in front of Malfoy." "It's not certain whether you will make a fool of yourself," Ron said rationally. "I know Malfoy always brags that he is very good at Quidditch, but I bet he is just bragging." During lunch in the auditorium, neither Snape nor Professor Quirrell were present, but most of the young wizards were not paying attention to them. They discussed the upcoming flying class and Quidditch wholeheartedly. At the Slytherin table, Malfoy talked about his flying experience. He said that he had narrowly avoided a Muggle helicopter. The explosive genius Seamus and Ron were also talking about their broomstick skills. Almost all the young wizards from wizard families were chattering about Quidditch. Of course, except Neville, he had never flown in his life because his grandmother never let him touch the broomstick. Hermione, who was sitting next to Lin Xiu, was nervously looking at a book called The Origin of Quidditch, trying to get some flying instructions from it. The afternoon flying class was more practical, and Hermione was not confident. Lin Xiu was seriously considering whether he should find a way to join the Gryffindor Quidditch team, next to harvest the emotional treasure chest. He had already discovered it. Relying on ordinary means to harvest the emotional value treasure chests of wizards has gradually become a little difficult. The day he entered Hogwarts was when he harvested the most treasure chests. Through interactions with Harry, Ron, Hermione, and others, he got a lot of silver treasure chests. Then, after the sorting ceremony, because Harry's female form resembled his mother Lily, Snape dropped a gold treasure chest. Apart from that, there were almost no treasure chests dropped. One of the main reasons is that Lin Xiu did not want to attract too much attention, so he was relatively low-key and did not make any big moves. Another important reason is that as wizards in the magic world, most people in Hogwarts have seen many magical phenomena, so it is not easy to make them have relatively large emotional fluctuations and drop treasure chests. For example, Lin Xiu performed well in the Transfiguration class yesterday, and Professor McGonagall's appreciation for him was visible in her eyes, so she must have had emotional fluctuations. But according to the system's standards, Professor McGonagall's emotional fluctuations were not enough, so she did not drop a treasure chest. Moreover, in the past few days, except for Snape, the people in Hogwarts almost quickly adapted to Harry's female form and were not surprised. This won't work. I want to grow and become stronger as soon as possible while Voldemort is still relatively weak. For the next period of time, the magic world is relatively safe. Lin Xiu decided to adjust his action ideas. While ensuring his own safety, he can properly make others drop emotional treasure chests. Now Lin Xiu and other little wizards are in the first year of school, corresponding to the first part of the Harry Potter story, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. In the following time, the more important events are flying class, Quidditch, the Forbidden Forest detention incident, Hagrid raising a dragon incident, and finally passing through many levels to protect the Philosopher's Stone and facing Voldemort's possession of Quirrell. Except for facing Voldemort, Lin Xiu can participate in the other events relatively safely. Let's start with the flying class this afternoon and find a way to get a few emotional treasure chests from the flying class. Soon, owls flew into the hall, and their cries interrupted Lin Xiu's thinking. An owl brought Neville a small package from his grandmother. Neville opened it excitedly and showed everyone a glass ball as big as a marble, which seemed to be filled with white smoke. "This is the memory ball," Neville explained. "Granny knows I always have a bad memory. It will tell me if there is something you forgot to do. Look, I hold it tightly like this. If it turns red, oh." He immediately pulled a long face because the memory ball suddenly turned bright red. "I may have forgotten something." Neville tried hard to remember what he forgot. Just then, Draco Malfoy passed by the Gryffindor dining table and snatched the memory ball from him. Harry and Ron jumped up. For some reason, they more or less hoped to fight with Malfoy. However, Professor McGonagall always sensed that something was wrong more keenly than other teachers, and she appeared in the blink of an eye. "What's going on?" "Malfoy stole my Remembrano, Professor." Malfoy's face was gloomy, and he quickly threw the Remembrano back on the table. "Wait and see," he said and hurried away, followed by Crabbe and Goyle. At about 3:30 in the afternoon, the little wizards of Gryffindor hurried down the steps and came to the lawn in front of the door to prepare for the first flying lesson. It was a sunny and breezy day, and the grass rippled slightly under their feet as they walked quickly down the sloping lawn and walked towards a flat lawn across the field. Beyond the lawn was the Forbidden Forest, and the dark trees in the distance swayed in the wind. The Slytherin students were already there, and there were 20 flying brooms neatly arranged on the ground. "Fred and George complained to me," Ron whispered to Lin Xiu and Harry. "The brooms of the college are too old. Some will shake when flying too high, and others will always turn the handle to the left." Lin Xiu couldn't help laughing. "The trajectory of the broom is to the left, right?" Soon, the flying teacher, Ms. Hooch, came. She had short gray hair and yellow eyes like eagle eyes. "Okay, what are you waiting for?" she said sternly. "Everyone stand next to a flying broom. Quick, quick, hurry up." Lin Xiu looked down at the broom next to him. The broom was old and broken, with many branches sticking out. To be honest, he was a little skeptical. Could such a broken thing really fly? Apart from anything else, it's just a wooden handle of the broom. Wouldn't it be uncomfortable to sit on it like this? But Ms. Hooch shouted in front. "Reach out your hand, put it above the broom, and say, 'Get up.'" Everyone followed and shouted, "Get up." Lin Xiu and Harry's brooms immediately jumped into their hands, and the others looked over with some envy, and the brooms next to them didn't react. Hermione's broom just rolled on the ground. Ron was hit on the nose by the suddenly jumping broom handle, and Neville's broom didn't move at all. Then, Madame Hooch showed everyone how to ride a broom safely. Lin Xiu did as he was told, and found that there was an invisible cushion on the broom handle that could hold people up well. He breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he wouldn't hurt himself when riding a flying broom. "Okay, when I blow the whistle, you kick your legs and leave the ground. Push hard," Madame Hooch said. "Hold the broom steady, rise a few feet, then lean forward slightly and fall vertically back to the ground. Listen to my whistle. 3-2 dash, however, Neville was too nervous to be left on the ground, so he kicked hard and flew up before the whistle touched Madame Hooch's lips. Neville went straight up, like a cork spraying out of a bottle, straight into the sky. Lin Xiu saw Neville's terrified, pale face looking at the ground below, gasping with his mouth wide open. Everyone stared at the flying Neville, shouting, "Be careful," in vain. Madame Hooch took out her wand and tried to put Neville down safely, but she couldn't aim at all. Lin Xiu knew that his chance had come. Saving Neville in front of everyone was a good opportunity to harvest the emotional treasure chest. He stepped on the flying broom directly. Hermione said nervously, "Lin Xiu, don't go. You don't know how to fly yet." But Lin Xiu had already jumped out. His flying broom skills were not very good, but his speed was surprisingly fast. Lin Xiu couldn't turn and control the direction well in the air, but he now had the bonus of non-human constitution and good eyesight, so he easily predicted Neville's trajectory in the air. So he suddenly jumped out, grabbed Neville in the air, and brought him safely to the ground. Girls screamed and gasped on the grass, and Harri and Ron shouted in admiration. Perfect rescue dive. Madame Hooch rushed over, her face as pale as Neville's, but somewhat relieved. "Mr. Lin Xiu, your rescue dive gives Gryffindor 3 points." She bent down and looked down at Neville, who fell to the ground without standing firmly. "But, Mr. Longbottom, because of your recklessness, Gryffindor will deduct 1 point." Seeing that Neville's face was still not good, Madame Hooch turned to the other students in the class and said, "I will take this child to the school infirmary, and no one of you is allowed to move. Put the flying broom back to its original place. Otherwise, you will be kicked out of the Hogwarts gate before you can even say Quidditch. Let's go, dear." When Neville passed by Lin Xiu, he said gratefully, "Lin Xiu, thank you." Lin Xiu nodded. After Neville and Ms. Hooch disappeared from everyone's sight, the young wizards all talked about Lin Xiu's act of flying to save people just now. "Lin Xiu, your flying just now was amazing." Ron came over excitedly. "If you ask me, you will definitely become a good Quidditch player in the future when we are promoted to the 2nd grade. Harry's eyes lit up. "So this is flying?" Hermione ran over and glanced at Lin Xiu nervously. After making sure that Lin Xiu was fine, she complained, "Lin Xiu, you were too reckless just now." Lin Xiu became the star of Gryffindor for a while, and his face was full of smiles, not only because of the amazement of the young wizards around him, but also because he heard the prompt of the system. Ding! Rolanda Hooch's grateful mood is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have won a bronze treasure chest. Ding! Neville Longbottom's grateful mood is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Ding! Hemer Granger's worry is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a bronze treasure chest. Ding! Harry Potter's admiration is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Ding! Magma Nerva's surprise is detected. Drawing a treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Lin Xiu was a little surprised when he saw the system prompt. Did Professor Mag see the operation just now? He subconsciously looked around and found that in the window of a spire tower, there was a figure motionlessly annotating the grassland. It was Professor Mag. In the original book, Professor McGonagall is a Quidditch enthusiast. She was a member of the team when she was in Gryffindor. Even after graduation, when she became the Dean of Gryffindor, she has always been concerned about the development of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. I have attracted the attention of Professor McGonagall this time. I wonder if I can join the Gryffindor Quidditch team through this. Lin Xiu is somewhat looking forward to it, but not much. The most lacking thing for the Gryffindor Quidditch team now is a seeker who can quickly catch the golden snitch. And Lin Xiu knows that compared with Harry, he is not competitive in this position. I should be able to join the Gryffindor Quidditch team next year. There's no need to rush. However, after this operation, he got a lot of emotion value treasure chests. Lin Xiu was generally satisfied. At this time, Malfoy, who saw Lin Xiu stealing the show, rushed out of the Slytherin crowd. Look! He quickly grabbed a glittering object from the grass. It's the memory ball that Longbottom's grandmother sent him. Malfoy held up the memory ball, and it sparkled in the sun. "Give it here, Malfoy," Harry whispered. Everyone stopped talking and watched. Malfoy ignored it. "I want to put it somewhere for Longbottom to pick up. Put on a tree. How about it?" "Give it here," Harry shouted, but Malfoy had already jumped on his broom and took off. His previous words were not bragging. He really flew well. He was suspended at a height parallel to the top of an oak tree and shouted loudly, "Come and get it, Potter!" Inspired by Lin Xiu's flying behavior just now, Harry grabbed his broom without hesitation. Under the nervous gaze of everyone, Harry and Malfoy both flew into the air on their brooms and started a flying fight. But soon, Malfoy was defeated and threw Neville's memory ball out. Harry grabbed the memory ball steadily amid the screams of many young wizards. The young wizards cheered and jumped for joy. "Harry Potter!" Everyone was immediately stunned by the voice, and Professor McGonagall ran out. "I've been at Hogwarts for so many years." Never dash Professor McGonagall was so surprised that she couldn't speak. Her glasses flashed with anger. "How dare you? You'll break your neck, Dash." "It's not his fault, Professor Dash." "Shut up, Mr. Weasley." "But Malfoy Dash, stop it, Mr. Weasley." "Okay, Potter, follow me." Professor McGonagall paused when she passed Lin Xiu and added, "Mr. Lin Xiu, you come too." She strode towards the castle, and Harry followed mechanically. After Professor McGonagall appeared, Harry's figure became thinner, his hair turned burgundy, and he became a girl again. After the three of them left, Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle showed a smug look on their faces. "Look, that Potter is so lame." He was scared and turned into a girl. But soon, Malfoy found something wrong, and everyone was silent. The Slytherin students, who should have been arrogant, were as obedient as quails at this time. He looked back and was shocked. "Professor Snape, why are you here? This is not potions class." "Draco Malfoy, what were you talking about, Harry, just now?" Snape's eyes were gloomy. "Slytherin will be deducted 10 points. Potter, Professor Snape told me that he gave you some potions." Professor McGonagall stopped in the corridor. "As long as you keep your emotions stable, your body will be fine." "Professor, I can't stay calm." Harry sighed and whispered, "Are you going to expel me?" Professor McGonagall smiled and shook her head. "Not now, Harry." Lin Xiu didn't have any psychological pressure. He knew from the beginning that there would be no problems this time. He was just a little curious whether he could join the Gryffindor Quidditch team like Harry. Chapter 37, Successfully Joining the Quidditch Team. Professor McGonagall led Lin Xiu and Harry to the depths of the castle. They walked through doors and corridors. During this process, Professor McGonagall walked very fast, looking back at Lin Xiu and Harry from time to time. Lin Xiu had a non-human constitution and could easily keep up with Professor McGonagall's pace. So he also had the energy to pay attention to Professor McGonagall's expression. He noticed that the wrinkles on Professor McGonagall's face were stretched out. Professor McGonagall was not smiling now, but it was obvious that she was in a good mood now. But Harry didn't notice this. Professor McGonagall didn't explain why she called them away. Harry was still worried about being expelled from the flying class for riding a flying broom. Moreover, Lin Xiu noticed the changes that took place in Harry after he became a girl, and he would unconsciously whisper what he was worried about. Just like just now, before walking through a corridor and entering the castle, Lin Xiu clearly heard Harry sigh softly. "Oh, I'm definitely finished. I've only been here for a few days. In 10 minutes, I'll have to pack up and leave. When the Dudleys see me at their doorstep, what will they say to ridicule me? Is Professor McGonagall going to take Lin Xiu and me to see Dumbledore? Maybe I can ask him to let us stay in school as gamekeepers like Hagrid after being expelled. Maybe I can even be Hagrid's assistant. I guess Ron and the others will have become official wizards by then." Girl Harry frowned. He quickly ran to Lin Xiu's side, whispered, "Lin Xiu, what do you think about being Hagrid's gamekeeper after we are expelled? But I guess we will have to build 2 more rooms next to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid's house probably won't be able to accommodate us." Lin Xiu couldn't help laughing. He didn't expect Harry's psychological activities to be so rich. "I won't take you to see Professor Dumbledore." nor will I expel you. Professor McGonagall stopped outside a classroom and looked back at Lin Xiu and Harry. I think Hagrid is doing a good job. Hogwarts needs him as the gamekeeper. Professor McGonagall pushed open the classroom door and half leaned in. Excuse me, Professor Flitwick, can you let it out for a while? Harry was shocked. Professor McGonagall is going to hit us with wood? In English, wood is wood, which means wood. Professor McGonagall smiled and said, "You have a rich imagination, Harry." A tall and strong boy walked out of the classroom with a blank face. Professor McGonagall, what do you want to talk to me about? You come with me first. Professor McGonagall strode forward with a few people in the corridor. Along the way, Wood looked at Lin Xiu and Harry curiously. Finally, several people followed Professor McGonagall into an empty classroom. Professor McGonagall closed the door, then turned around and faced the few people. "This is Oliver Wood, captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Wood, I found a seeker and chaser for you." The expression on Wood's face changed from confusion to joy. "Are you serious, Professor?" "Absolutely serious," Professor McGonagall said simply. "They are both geniuses. This is your first time riding a broom, right?" Lin Xiu and Harry nodded. During the flying class, when Longbottom's flying broom went out of control, even Madame Hooch couldn't save him in time. But Lin Xiu rode on the flying broom and succeeded in one shot. He was like a sharp arrow, saving Mr. Longbottom, who was flying in the air. Wood's face was full of light. Harry breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know what happened, but it was obvious that Lin Xiu and he would not be expelled. And Harry, he dived 50 feet and reached out to grab that thing, Mr. Longbottom's memory ball. There was no flesh injury at all. Even Charlie Weasley, who led Gryffindor to win the Quidditch game before, couldn't do this. Wood's smile never stopped, as if all his dreams had suddenly become reality. "Lin Xiu, Harry, have you two ever watched a Quidditch game?" Professor McGonagall asked. Lin Xiu and Harry shook their heads. "It's okay. You two have the talent, and we'll get the hang of it soon." Wood looked at Lin Xiu and suddenly said, "Hit me." Seeing the puzzled expressions of Lin Xiu and Harry, Wood explained, "Lin Xiu, according to Professor McGonagall, you are most suitable for the position of chaser. Chasers need to pass the quaffle to each other and try to get it through a ring so that they can score points. In this process, you will inevitably have some collisions with chasers from other teams. The stronger you are, the greater your advantage." After that, Wood looked at Professor McGonagall. "Professor, please help me cast an armor charm. This spell is quite difficult, and I haven't mastered it yet." Professor McGonagall took out her wand and waved it gently. "Protego, armor protection." Suddenly, the white light disappeared. Wood took a breath. "Lin Xiu, hit me with all your strength. Let me feel your strength." Lin Xiu nodded and punched Wood with a punch. Bang! A white light appeared in front of Wood, transforming into a shield, which directly deflected Lin Xiu's charged punch, but Wood still took a few steps back involuntarily. "Mr. Lin Xiu, a beautiful punch." As the caster of the armor curse, Professor McGonagall felt it most deeply. "If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have thought you were a troll." Wood's eyes sparkled, and he said to Lin Xiu earnestly, "You must come to our Quidditch team. With you joining, we will definitely beat Slytherin and flee." Lin Xiu nodded. This was originally his goal. Find a way to join Gryffindor's Quidditch team. Use the performance on the court to pull the emotions of the people in Hogwarts, and take the opportunity to harvest the emotional treasure chest. Professor McGonagall smiled at Lin Xiu. At this time, a prompt came from the system. Ding! Magma Nerva's happy emotions detected. Drawing treasure chest for the host. Congratulations to the host. You have obtained a silver treasure chest. Lin Xiu was a little surprised. Professor McGonagall really likes Quidditch. So far, she has dropped emotional treasure chests twice, both of which are related to Quidditch. Lin Xiu gradually felt some patterns. Different characters have their own preferences for different things. If their emotions are affected by these things, they are more likely to drop emotional treasure chests. For example, what Harry the girl is to Professor Snape. What Quidditch is to Professor McGonagall. While Lin Xiu was thinking, Wood looked at Harry. Your current body shape is just right for being Seeker. Light, agile. We have to find a way to get you two a decent broom. Professor, I think Nimbus 2000 or Sweep 7 would be good. I'm going to talk to Professor Dumbledore to see if we can make an exception and use first-year students. Indeed, we need a better Quidditch team than last year. We were defeated badly by the Slytherin team in the last game, and I didn't dare to meet Snape for several weeks. Professor McGonagall looked at Lin Xiu and Harri sternly from above her glasses. I hope to hear that you are training hard. Otherwise, I will change my mind and punish you. Then Professor McGonagall smiled and said, "Of course, don't be so nervous. Enjoy your Quidditch game." She looked at Harri. "Your father would be proud of you. He used to be an excellent Quidditch player." Before parting, Wood seemed to have suddenly thought of something and called everyone. Wood said to Professor McGonagall, "Professor, as far as I know, Harri will transform from time to time. He is very light and agile in his current female form and will definitely be a great seeker. But if he changes back to a boy during the Quidditch game..." Wood, when Harri caught Mr. Longbottom's memory ball, he was in the form of a boy. "I don't think it has much impact whether Harri is a boy or a girl." Wood shook his head. "No, as long as it can improve our Quidditch performance, I always think we should try it, Professor McGonagall. Why don't you talk to Professor Snape and see if he can sponsor us to keep Harri in the female form during the game?" Professor McGonagall was almost laughed at by Wood. Asking Snape for a potion to turn Harri into a girl, he thought of it. Even if Professor McGonagall can put up this face for Gryffindor's Quidditch performance, she still has to consider Harry's own ideas. "Wood, because of your dangerous idea, you'll be detained for 1 hour after your spells class. In addition, Gryffindor will be deducted 1 point." During dinner, Ron learned from Harri what happened after Professor McGonagall took Lin Xiu and Harri away. At that time, Ron was about to put a piece of steak and kidney pie into his mouth, but he forgot it halfway through. "Chaser and Seeker," he said in surprise. "But first-year students never Lin Xiu, and you must be the youngest players on the house team in many years. In fact, the youngest players in a century." Wood said, Harri said while eating pie in big mouthfuls. Now he has returned to his male form. What happened in the afternoon made him feel a little thrilling, and now he is very hungry. Ron sat at the dining table, staring at Lin Xiu and Harri blankly. He is still shocked. "We start training next week," Lin Xiu said. "Don't tell anyone. Wood wants to keep it a secret." At this time, Fred and George Weasley walked into the dining room. They saw Lin Xiu and Harri at a glance and walked over quickly. "Good job," George whispered. "Wood told us. We are the beaters of the house team. Let me tell you, we will definitely win the Quidditch Cup this year." Fred said, "We haven't won since Charlie left, but this year, our team will definitely shine." When Wood told us about this, he was so excited that he was almost incoherent. Fred smiled and said, "You don't know how excited Wood is. He even plans to ask Professor Snape of Slytherin for some potions for Harri, saying that he wants to increase Harry's chances of winning on the court." Ron said in surprise, "We Gryffindor didn't do, and Slytherin always have a bad relationship." Professor Snape's face was gloomy most of the time. Did Wood really dare to go to Snape? George laughed. "I think Wood is crazy with excitement." Fred shook his head. "If he is not punished, Wood will even go to kill the Slytherin team. He might really go to Snape. But I don't think Snape will give him the potion. He will probably yell at him to get out and deduct points from our Gryffindor." Lin Xiu shook his head. "It's hard to say." The Weasley twins didn't know what happened in the afternoon, so they thought Wood's success rate was very low. The potion that Wood wanted to ask Snape for was for Harri, and the effect of the potion was to turn Harri into a girl during the Quidditch game. Snape might really take out the potion. At this moment, the Weasley twins suddenly said, "We have to go. Lee Jordan thinks he has found a new secret passage that can lead to the outside of the school. Goodbye." They ran away quickly. Lin Xiu also noticed that the discussion around the auditorium was much quieter. A bat-like figure in a black robe stopped beside Harri. It was Snape. Ron didn't dare to breathe, and Harri whispered, "Professor Snape, what can I do for you?" He keenly noticed that when he was in male form, Professor Snape's attitude towards him was obviously much worse. "I heard that you joined the Gryffindor Quidditch team. Take it." Snape seemed to want to say something, but when he looked at Harry's face, he left with a dark face after dropping a bottle of clear light red potion. "Snape is so weird," Ron muttered. "Harri, what did he leave for you?" Professor Snape was persuaded by me, would appear beside Harri covered in dust. Harri, keep it well. Save it for when you play in the official game, and then become a girl to catch Slytherin off guard. Okay, Harri put away the potion and made up his mind not to drink it. Wood, why are you covered in dust? Nothing. After Professor McGonagall punished me to clean the trophy in the trophy room, I went to Professor Snape to persuade him to prepare potions for you, and then I was punished to move potion materials for him. Wood nodded with satisfaction. Anyway, we still got something from Professor Snape. Can potions be used before Quidditch games? Ron asked curiously. Don't worry. The current Quidditch games only stipulate that you can't use Felix Felicis to increase luck, and there are not many restrictions on other potions. Wood left soon, and his punishment was not over yet. Harri and Ron were still having dinner, while Lin Xiu went back to the dormitory alone. During this time, there was basically no one in their dormitory, and Lin Xiu was going to open the treasure chest that exploded during the day. System: open the treasure chest. Chapter 38, open the treasure chest, and get a lot of rewards ding. Bronze treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Hawkeye. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Introduction to runes. Ding. Silver treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Primary malice resistance. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Intermediate flying talent. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Intermediate transfiguration mastery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Intermediate silent spell mastery. Opening 6 treasure chests at once. Lin Xiu is somewhat looking forward to it. Hawkeye. Ms. Hooch is an expert in flying, Quidditch, and broom flying. In addition to being a flying teacher at Hogwarts, she also serves as a referee during Quidditch matches. Many people say that Ms. Hooch's talent in Quidditch is largely due to her eagle-like eyes, which can see the movements in every corner of the Quidditch field. After using it, your eyes will not change significantly, but your farsightedness will be much better than that of ordinary people. Your dynamic vision will be much better than that of ordinary people. Your visual accuracy will be much better than that of ordinary people. Your eyes will be able to adapt to the interference of various lights on vision, and you will have night vision. Lin Xiu did not hesitate and chose to use it directly. Suddenly, he felt that the muscles around his eyes seemed to be strengthened, and the picture he saw in front of him became clearer. It was almost night, and the light around was very weak. Most people could hardly see clearly, but when Lin Xiu looked out of the dormitory window, he still felt very clear. It was not as bright as day, but he could clearly see most of the details around Hogwarts Castle in the gradually dimming light. The things opened in Ms. Hooch's treasure chest are not bad. Lin Xiu plans to get more emotional treasure chests through Quidditch games next. Now that he has obtained Hawkeye, his Quidditch journey will be smoother. Next is the introduction to runes. Introduction to runes. In Germanic mythology, Odin, the father of the gods, hung himself on a tree for 9 days and 9 nights to ponder the mysteries of the universe in order to seek higher wisdom. When he came down from the world tree, he understood the secret of runes. Many wizards believe that runes contain the secrets of the universe. In the early Middle Ages, many famous wizards, including Merlin and the 4 founders of Hogwarts, used runes to carry their own magical powers. Many ancient magical items, such as the pensieve in the headmaster's room at Hogwarts and the Elder Wand in Dumbledore's hand, contain runes. Hermione once achieved excellent results in the OWL exam in ancient runes and translated the runes of the tales of Beedle the Bard into English for publication. Her rune skills also helped the trio understand the Deathly Hallows when they were looking for Voldemort's Horcruxes. After using it, you will be able to simply distinguish the general meaning of most runes, and you will be able to understand the exact meaning of some rune words. Runes. After using it, Lin Xiu did not feel any obvious changes in his body. But since there are still many places in the magic world today that use runes as a basic text carrier, he thinks it will be good for him to learn simple runes. If he encounters ancient magic items in the future, he can at least distinguish what the functions of those magic items are. After that, Lin Xiu turned his attention to the few things he opened in the silver treasure chest. Intermediate malice resistance. Horcruxes are items used by dark wizards to store soul fragments in order to make themselves immortal. They are generally considered the most evil and terrifying of all dark magic items. Horcruxes have certain abilities that can affect people nearby mentally. Tom Riddle's diary even controlled Ginny to open the Chamber of Secrets in Hogwarts and release the basilisk to harm people. In 1997, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione wore Slytherin's locket and searched for other Horcruxes, their dark side was inevitably magnified, and they began to become irritable and negative. When they wore Horcruxes, they could no longer summon their Patronus, because Horcruxes would make people lose happiness in their hearts. But during the Battle of Hogwarts, when Voldemort announced that Harry Potter was dead and everyone was depressed, Neville Longbottom completely ignored Voldemort's influence and rose up to resist. He pulled out the Gryffindor sword from the sorting hat, ignored the spiritual influence of a Horcrux, and destroyed Voldemort's last Horcrux, the Great Snake Nagini. After using it, you will gain resistance to mental malice. The influence of negative emotions on you will be greatly reduced, the dark side of your heart will not appear, and you will hardly be affected by magic. You can ignore the influence of a Horcrux and use the Patronus charm freely without affinity for dark magic. Good stuff. Lin Xiu's eyes lit up, and he immediately chose to use it. In the magical world of Hogwarts, the power of magic is very idealistic. For example, the Patronus charm on Harry can rebound Voldemort's Avada Kedavra because of the love of Harry's mother Lily. Among the unforgivable curses, the effect of the Cruciatus curse also depends on the malice of the caster. The stronger the malice, the more pleasure the pain of others, and the greater the damage caused by the Cruciatus curse. The same is true for the Avada Kedavra. Apart from a wizard's own magical qualities, the important factor that affects the Avada Kedavra is the murderous intent in the heart when casting the spell. When there is not much murderous intent in the heart, forcibly using the Avada Kedavra will at most make people bleed from the nose after hitting them. When the murderous intent is strong enough, it will instantly kill the target. On the one hand, the malicious resistance opened from Neville's emotional treasure chest can help Lin Xiu resist the mental erosion of black magic props such as Horcruxes. On the other hand, it ensures that Lin Xiu is always in a normal and stable mental state, ensuring that when he casts the spell, the effect of the spell will not be reduced by too much mental influence. It is equivalent to a guarantee. After using it, Lin Xiu felt it carefully and could probably feel that his emotions became more stable and his mentality became more positive. Then it is intermediate flying talent. Intermediate flying talent. Harry showed his flying talent when he first touched the flying broom, and he became the youngest seeker in Gryffindor in a century. Harry's extraordinary flying skills played a big role later. After passing through the trapdoor, Harry used his flying skills to get the wing key and successfully pass the challenge set by Professor Flitwick. In addition, during the Triwizard Tournament, Harry used this to steal the golden egg from the dragon of the Hungarian Horntail. During the Battle of Hogwarts, he also used the flying broom to escape from the burning fiendish fire in the Room of Requirement. After using it, you'll have a good flying talent. Your flight stability will increase, and your movements will be more natural when flying. You can use it to greatly reduce wind resistance, and your flight speed will be faster. Your flying movements will be more agile and quick, and you can avoid various balls flying in the air. Combined with the Hawkeye he opened earlier, Lin Xiu believes that his current flying skills and Quidditch skills will not be bad. This will help him to use the Quidditch game to harvest the emotional treasure chests of many wizards in the wizarding world. Almost everyone likes Quidditch. With the help of Quidditch, Lin Xiu can harvest the emotional treasure chests of other wizards as much as possible. Lin Xiu chose to use it without hesitation. Suddenly, he had an impulse in his heart, and he wanted to rush to the broom shed right now and ride on a flying broom to the sky. Lin Xiu took some effort to suppress the impulse to fly in his heart. In addition to flying classes and Quidditch training, the use of flying brooms in Hogwarts is limited. It is so dark now, and you must not fly outside casually. Lin Xiu put his expectations for flying in the next flying class and the upcoming Quidditch training, and then looked at the two items left in the system space. They were opened from Professor McGonagall's 2 silver treasure chests. Intermediate Transfiguration Mastery. After entering Hogwarts to study magic, Minerva McGonagall learned transfiguration from Albus Dumbledore and showed her talent in this field at a very young age. After Dumbledore became the headmaster, McGonagall took over his original teaching position and became the school's transfiguration teacher. The subject she taught is considered to be the most complex and dangerous spell in the Hogwarts curriculum. During the Battle of Hogwarts, she transformed a torch into a ring of fire when dueling with Severus Snape, and turned the black snake that Snape conjured into black smoke, and reformed it into a dense dagger to attack Snape. Later, when the Death Eaters attacked the castle, she brought all the statues and armor in the castle to life to help defend the castle. After using it, you will master transfiguration proficiently, and your understanding of the nature of magic will be further deepened. Intermediate Silent Spell Mastery. Silent spells refer to spells that are not recited loudly when using talismans. Hogwarts requires students to start trying silent spells after the 6th grade. Mastering silent spells is very difficult and requires a lot of practice because it requires strong concentration and willpower. In addition, most spells are weaker when used as silent spells than when they are recited. When the silent spell is fully mastered, the casting effect will not be weakened. Minerva McGonagall can use silent magic quite skillfully. When Barty Crouch Jr. disguised as Alastair Moody turned Draco Malfoy into a ferret, she turned him back without a spell. In 1998, she conjured a silver rope to trap the Carrows and summoned 3 patron uses, all without saying a single word. After using it, you will master the silent spell technique, and you can use it to cast most relatively simple spells after training. When you cast a silent spell, the spell attenuation effect is reduced to a certain extent. Lin Xiu looked at the intermediate transfiguration and the silent spell, and his heart was full of smiles. Thank for the flying broom and Quidditch. Thank you, Professor McGonagall. For him, the things that came out of Professor McGonagall's emotional treasure chest were the most valuable of all his gains today, especially intermediate transfiguration mastery. Transfiguration is the most dangerous and complex spell among all the spells taught by Hogwarts professors. It is difficult and powerful. During the Battle of the Department of Mysteries, Dumbledore transformed and activated the fountain sculpture in the main hall of the Ministry of Magic to fight Voldemort. In the Battle of Hogwarts, Professor McGonagall used transfiguration to transform the stone statue into a guard to help protect Hogwarts when facing the attacking Death Eaters. Transfiguration is definitely promising in the future. Apart from anything else, Dumbledore, one of the strongest wizards in the world, was a transfiguration teacher at Hogwarts when he was young. This is enough to show the value of transfiguration. And the intermediate silent spell mastery from Professor McGonagall's emotional treasure chest is also a good thing. After all, the only way to break the magic spell in the world is to be fast. After mastering it, it can help Lin Xiu reduce the casting time when fighting other wizards and gain a great advantage. After using both props, Lin Xiu had a lot of transfiguration experience in his mind. He can now easily complete all the challenges raised by Professor McGonagall in the Transfiguration class. In addition, Lin Xiu also had various silent spell casting techniques in his mind. He tested several spells he had mastered on the spot. After dozens of minutes of repeated training, Lin Xiu was able to easily cast the repair spell without chanting the wand. He roughly estimated that the repair spell he cast in a silent state was only 70% of the effect of the repair spell he cast by shouting, and the repair speed was slightly slower. But it's not bad. Lin Xiu nodded with satisfaction. It seems that he chose Quidditch as the entry point to harvest the emotional treasure chest, and this road was not wrong. He fell asleep soon. The next morning, when Lin Xiu was having breakfast in Gryffindor, he heard Harri and Ron whispering excitedly. "We met a big dog with 3 heads last night. It was very fierce." Lin Xiu asked curiously, "Did you go for a night tour last night?" "We didn't go out for a night tour." Ron shook his head. "During dinner yesterday, Malfoy challenged Harri to a wizard duel. We fought bravely, but it was obvious that Malfoy was a coward. Malfoy lied to us," Harri said. "We arrived at the agreed duel location, but only saw Filch and his cat. We were almost caught. Finally, we hid in a room and found the three-headed dog. At this time, Lin Xiu was a little surprised. The three-headed dog is very ferocious. The school just put in a room without even locking it. Lin Xiu remembered that in the original book, the room where the three-headed dog was locked. When Harri and his friends arrived here, they were helpless in the face of the locked door. In the end, it was Hermione who opened the door with the unlocking spell, and they hid in and found the three-headed dog. It's just that Hermione and Lin Xiu are now relatively closer. Influenced by Lin Xiu, Hermione is not so domineering and nosy in her dealings with others. Therefore, Hermione didn't worry about Harri and his friends last night, but slept soundly in her dormitory. Hermione didn't go out at night with them last night. If Harri and his friends encountered a locked...
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.